This meeting is called to order. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the City of Boynton Beach City Commission meeting. Today is September 8th, 2022, and the time is now 6:05 p.m. Before we proceed any further, just a reminder of our rules of civility. Commissioners must first be recognized by the chair and not interrupt the speaker. Public comments must be addressed to the commission as a whole and not to any individual in the dais or in the audience. Displays of personal attacks are strictly prohibited, and disruptive behaviors from the audience are likewise strictly prohibited. Violations of these rules may result in you being removed from these chambers. Let's begin first with our roll call. City Clerk.
Mayor Penserga,
Here.
Vice Mayor Cruz,
Present.
Commissioner Hay,
Here.
Commissioner Turkin,
Present.
Commissioner Kelly.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, City Clerk. The invocation for this evening will be led by Reverend Patterson from Seacrest Presbyterian Church. And for today, I'd like to ask that we follow up with a moment of silence in recognition of the recent passing of the Queen of England. And I know many residents of Boynton have ties to the UK, so I'd like to take that moment to honor that individual. And the third item is, of course, the Pledge of Allegiance led by myself. Let's all stand for the invocation, followed by a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father in heaven, we begin our meeting tonight in prayer, acknowledging our need for your grace to our city. We thank you for each of those who have come tonight to participate, and we pray that you will give to each one clarity of thought and speech and help us to rightly hear one another. The scriptures declare that unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain. So we boldly ask for your presence and your blessing on our community. We thank you for the members of this city commission. We thank you that you've given them hearts to serve our community. Give to them wisdom and insight as they must make decisions that will impact our families, our neighbors, our children for generations to come. We ask that you would unite them in their vision and their service for this city. We pray, Father, your particular blessing on Mayor Penserga, Vice Mayor Cruz, Commissioners Hay, Turkin, and Kelly. Give them everything they need to lead our city. Father, we've gone through some difficult times in our community in these recent months, and we now have some new transitions within leadership. We pray for our new city manager, Dan Duggar, our new police chief, Joseph DeGaio, our new fire chief, Hugh Bruder. We thank you for these new leaders and ask that you will give them wisdom as they carry out their roles. Surround them with good counselors. Enable them to fulfill their roles with expertise. We often hear reported that the morale on our police force is low. We regularly hear that the police and community relationships in our community are broken. We ask that through this new leadership, you might renew the spirits of the men and women who protect us and serve us. And we ask that you would grant full integrity to those who serve, and that you would accomplish reconciliation between the members of the force and our community. Give them, we pray, a fresh start. Strengthen our families physically and spiritually. Give wisdom to the fathers and mothers as they raise up their children. Restrain those who would act lawlessly or do harm to others. Renew, we pray, the relationships in our community between all the ethnicities and all of the financial groups. Lord, we almost dread this coming season of political elections, but we pray that you will work unity within our community and a willingness to hear one another. Father, we're coming up on the anniversary of the attack upon our nation of 9/11. And we pray that you would protect our community and our entire nation from any sort of aggressive attack. Give to us wisdom in terms of how to live. Lord, may all glory, honor, and praise go to you. And may you give a spiritual revival to our community, filling her with faith, joy, and hope through Jesus Christ, in whose name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Let's all pause for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Reverend, for those beautiful words. We're now going to move on to agenda approval, additions, deletions, and corrections to the agenda. I'd like to make a request. In a previous meeting, we had discussed about possibly hiring an outside law firm to serve as co-counsel for the town square. And so I'd like to continue that conversation this evening. So I'd like to place under unfinished business discussion and consideration again of hiring outside counsel for matters pertaining to town square. If there's no objections, we'll place that on the agenda. I also received a request from staff to remove item 11C from the agenda this evening. And I was also informed that item 11A, that presenter is not available this evening. So when we arrive in that item, I will ask for that item to be tabled. Okay. And as for me, I'm sorry, one more item. I would like to request discussion regarding also outside legal assistance when it comes to arbitrations. And this is born out of a conversation I had with the police chief. So I'm going to ask him to describe that item. And so I'd just like to ask my colleagues to be open to hearing to the chief regarding this arbitration process. And that's it for me. Are there any other requests from my colleagues? Commissioner Turkin?
Yes, I just want to clarify, will there be public input on 2B?
On 2B, there will be public input on all of these items.
Okay.
From 2B, C, and D, all matters pertaining to hearings of the budget, the fire assessment, the millage rate.
Perfect.
Canal assessment. Excellent. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, we're gonna place the discussion on arbitration council as new item F.
Yes, we'll call that new business. Let me just double check what letter that is. Yes, that would be F.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, anything else from my colleagues? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to amend the agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. The agenda is therefore amended. Now we're going to move on to informational items by members of the City Commission. I'd like to, let's go around the days. Let's begin with Commissioner Kelly, and we'll just go around from you to Commissioner Hay.
I do not have any disclosures. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Turkin?
I have none.
All right, Vice Mayor Cruz?
I have no disclosures at this time.
Okay, and Commissioner Hay?
I had no disclosures, but I'd like to say that I did attend the Bridges breakfast, which was outstanding out in Wellington. I also like to say that I attend the First Friday activity where a lot of people were dancing and having a great time. So that was good to see.
It's always a good time. So thank you to our staff for that. And thank you, Commissioner Hay. Was that the conclusion?
Yes.
Okay. As for me, I'd just like to make an announcement regarding our 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony. I invite all of you to join us this weekend. The City of Boynton Beach will observe the 21st anniversary of September 11th with the Remembrance Ceremony to honor the victims who lost their lives in the attacks at the World Trade Center site, the Pentagon, and aboard Flight 93. The ceremony will take place on Sunday, that's this Sunday, September 11th, 2022, beginning at 9 a.m. at Tom Kaiser Boynton Beach Veterans Memorial Park. That's 411 North Federal Highway. Parking is available at the park. Those requiring ADA accommodation should call 561-742-6241 or email ada@bbfl.us. On the evening of September 11th, the City of Boynton Beach Water Tower will be lit in red, white, and blue in remembrance of 9/11. If you would like more information, you can visit our city website or call 561-742-6010. All right, I hope you'll join me and my colleagues as well. I would also like to take a moment to acknowledge our city staff, and I've decided that I'm going to make this a regular item. And this evening, I'd like to recognize a couple of individuals, Mara Friedrichsen, Corinne Elliott, Tony Davidson, Fabio Baca, and all of our department directors. These individuals were instrumental in putting together our city budget. So thank you. I know it's not an easy task, but I thank all of you for your hard work. And I want you to know that we are observant. We recognize the work that you're putting in. So thank you to all of you for what you do. That concludes it for me. We're now going to move on to the next item. But before I do, are there any last minute items from my colleagues? Okay. We are now moving on to item 2B, proposed resolution number R22-116, adopt the annual canal services special assessment rate for the fiscal year 2022-23. For the preliminary assessment resolution number R22-098, pursuant to the provisions of ordinance number 21-011, sections 166.021 and 166.041 Florida statutes and other applicable provisions of law. I know that was a mouthful. City Attorney, did you want to add anything additional to this before we open this up for comments from my colleagues as well as public comments?
No, it's just this is required to have a public hearing before you adopt the assessment resolution. And if it is adopted, this assessment will go on the tax roll for collection. I'm sorry, we collect it by invoice. It does not go on a tax roll. My apologies. It will be collected like it was last year through invoicing of the city.
And this item is identical to what was discussed in the budget workshops?
My understanding is that it's the same rates and the same amounts, and of course, it's going to be the same use.
All right, thank you for that, City Attorney. Let me turn to my colleagues. Colleagues, would you like to comment now or wait after public comments?
Just quick question.
Sure.
I want the public to go first, but does this need to be adopted today?
Well, since we're not sending on the tax bill, it does not. However, it needs to be adopted before you finalize your budget.
Which will be the 22nd.
22nd.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, hearing nothing else from my colleagues, let's open the floor for public comments. Many of you know the drill. You have 3 minutes per individual, and we do have 2 podiums, so we will go back and forth. So first speaker, please approach the podium. For those of you listening online, we will take digital hands raised up until the end of in-person public comments, after which online hands will no longer be accepted. And Mani and Darian will take note of the hands so we make sure we don't miss anybody. Sir, you may begin when you are ready. And please state your name for the record.
Sure. Do I get 2 minutes or 3?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. I'll use 2 if you need to
All right.
ask questions. And thank you for letting me speak. My name is Gary L. Fishman, 3504 Diane Drive. I've been a resident for 31 years. I've spoken here before, of which I guess the mayor has heard me, as well as other people, I think Woodrow Hay, as well as others, and welcome to the new staff. To all Boynton Beach city officials, with the utmost respect for allowing me to speak today. We do not have a neighborhood association and have been made limited with our abilities to be unified with a direct voice. The city erred by not having the necessary association, which has harmed our protection of our canal. The 42-inch culvert is sunken and too low to have proper flow, getting rid of the unwanted weeds that 97% flow in from the 18.5-foot wide, 10-foot high bridge from the 189.26 acres of Lake Ida. The city has promised to have city staff to have a task force to look into ways to help. To date, there has been no communication. We need communication, please, before this is talked about. There are the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission and Palm Beach County that are treating Lake Ida and should be treating our canal. The Lake Ida Canal is the name. The city was to help coordinate the efforts, but sadly so far has not. The spraying, though needed, should not be paid for by us, but should be paid for by the Florida Fish and Wildlife. And the law states that 68F-54.003, which states a body of water treated by Florida Fish and Wildlife, if ineffectual, because the weeds flow in to our canal, needs to be applied to the damaged area. That's our canal. So our Lake Ida Canal is the canal that's in question here. and we really would like your help. Our canal being 1,800 feet long, 65 feet wide, is different from the other small canals and should be classified and treated differently. Our canal has floating islands of weeds that come in from the lake, and spraying is not effective. The fee schedule truly needs to
30
be.
seconds.
Okay. The fee truly needs to be postponed, as we should wait for the new city manager to weigh in. We need further discussions, please. And thank you for letting me speak. It's very important that we get this resolved this time. And because of sunshine laws, I really would like people to talk at the dais so that we can get help with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect timing. And let's hope our timing is good with this.
All right, next speaker. Begin when you're ready and please state your name for the record.
Mike Brunson, Leisureville. I'd first like to thank the commission for their courage and foresight in hiring Dan Duggar as city manager. I spoke last meeting in his favor, and I want to thank you. My next item is on your agenda 11E. I'd like to speak in favor of the park at Leisureville. That land has sat there for so long, wasted, and to have more housing in that immediate area is kind of ludicrous, and I'd hope that we'll go forward with that in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Cindy Falco Di Corrado. Last meeting, a gentleman was up here and he was sharing something, and I had met him outside, and he had stated to me that the police do not have to take an oath of office. And I'm here to clarify that. Yes, they do.
Mr.
You
Mayor,
see?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but there is an opportunity for general public comments. This is a public hearing on the canal special assessment.
Yes.
Oh,
But
I'm
there
sorry.
will
I
be-
thought you said this was open to the public hearing. Sorry about that.
This particular item is open to the public hearing.
Sorry about
Sorry to
that.
interrupt,
I'll
ma'am.
catch you on the next one. Thank you.
Yes, you'll have that opportunity. So for now, let's limit our comments specifically on the canal assessment.
This is just on the canal assessment?
Just canal assessment. We'll have time for general comments. All right, please begin.
Hey, everyone. My name is William Cunningham. I'm at 3425 South Lake Drive. My family's been there since 1979. It's a great community. I have nothing bad to say about it. I actually love it. I think it's a hidden secret back there. But one thing that has been an issue for decades is the canal with the flow of water, seaweed. There's a spill off that comes off I-95 at the one end of the bridge. The culvert is at the other end. And, the main lake, all the weeds get pushed into our canal. And, I'm very thankful that you guys are, taking initiative to, get our canal treated. You guys are getting it sprayed. I am aware, I know some of the neighbors are telling me that, the county is paying for the main lake. And I was kind of confused on why, the same company's not doing both. That kind of seems that doesn't make sense, economically, business fundamentals. I don't know. What I'd like to do is just kind of understand, you guys kind of put a package together for the 37 residents. Give us options. Tell us, I want to see financial budgets. I don't mind paying, but I want to understand, and I want to make sure everybody's accountable for what we're paying for. If we want to put a bridge and it's going to cost 400 grand, show me that, match us, and make it a mortgage that we pay over 10 years, or do something like put something together that makes sense. And if it's not going to be that, then show us, how you're going to work with us for the weeds. I just want to understand that better. But I think you guys do a great job, and Boynton Beach is a great city. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Next speaker. Again, specifically on the canal assessment.
I have 10 minutes.
I said no such thing. You have 3 minutes.
I'd like everybody to show their passport, picture, signature, and birth certificate right now.
Sir, relevance to the canal assessment.
It is relevant
Get to the point.
because you're talking about
Get
it
to the point, sir.
and you don't have this. First of all, every time I come and listen to your, I'm sorry. Ernest George McNolly, 710 Northeast 7th Street, condo number 407, Boynton Beach, Florida, 33435. My phone number is 561-788-3888. My email, earnmcnolly@gmail.com. a com. And here's my passport, and here's my birth certificate. So every time I come about the canal, and I'm a big proponent of boating. I've been a boater, swimmer, fisherman my whole life. And I know about canals. I know about a lot of stuff. I know about marinas and docks. I've had boats in the World Trade Center Marina for 15 years. So even during 9/11. So I know a lot about docks and rivers and canals and filling in, et cetera. And here's what I'm going to say about Boynton Beach. Boynton Beach, with its overdevelopment on the canals, has caused the canals to fill in with all kinds of stuff, construction debris, fertilizer, and then you're getting it from the surrounding municipalities, from lakes, et cetera. So it's filling in. And then the other problem is in the canals, especially the ones where millionaires live, you know, millionaire, billionaire developers, you know, who know everybody politically, where they got like 100-foot yachts, right? And they're putting in the canal big docks with, and many times, with my knowledge, without federal approval, right? And what they're doing is when they put in all those pylons and those boat lifts and all that stuff, it's causing the mud to gather around that and the canal to fill in more. So then what do? Then they walk in here and say, oh, you got to help us. You know, we don't play any part in the fact that it's filling in. And, you know, why don't you do ours? Because we're billionaires. But forget Mignoli over there and his with his canal. We're not paying nothing for his. But, you know, canal ours out, pay for ours. And then you have these meetings where you all disagree. And then you say, oh, no, we don't want the taxpayers to pay. You know, we're not going to charge it. And then you do the same thing over and over again. You vote, and then you vote to have the taxpayers pay for it. The pattern here is frightening. It's over and over and over. Most of the comments, and then the worst thing is when you're talking about this, you're all texting with police, firemen, developers, city managers, everybody texting. What do I say? How should I vote? Well, where am I? Where's my passport? I think it's funny, right?
All right, next speaker, please approach the podium. Are there any other in-person speakers to speak specifically on the canal assessment issue? All right, seeing no other in-person comments, I'd like to first go to virtual, then we'll go to any written record. Yes, Mani or Darian, are there anybody online with their hands raised specifically for this item?
We currently have no hands raised, sir.
All right, I'd like to ask the city manager, Mr. Stables, if you could read into the record. I believe we've received a letter.
We have Janique de Fabrique. Having lived in Boynton Beach for the last 44 years, there has been no discussion that has resulted in a proposed solution to the problematic culvert at the end of the canal on Lake Ida between South Lake and Diane Drives. According to numerous engineers, the culvert does not support the supply of water flowing from Lake Ida and was designed with the notion that no other debris would accrue with the water source flowing in a much too small opening. After years of debate and consistent discussion during countless council meetings, we were able to procure a solution that we thought was a good compromise to deal with the sunken culvert where weeds collect from Lake Ida and its surrounding tributaries. While that compromise was a great solution initially, it was merely a Band-Aid and as a result has left us with dirty, stagnant, and unsafe water. The spraying of the canal works on a temporary basis when there is consistent treatment, but even that has become a constant battle ensuring that the procured vendor is held accountable to what the residents are paying for through their property taxes. It requires post-rainstorm calls when weeds collect, simply ensuring that treatment is done on a regular basis. It is evident when treatment is missed or when the weeds simply collect and create an unbearable and unsanitary environment. The only solution to these unsafe conditions and to mitigate any further debate is quite simple. Removal of the culvert and creating a bridge where automobiles can traverse to Diane Drive, Mission Hill Road, and South Lake Drive. The bridge will not only serve as a pass-through for the water and weeds coming from the various aforementioned sources, but also as a beautification from what is currently identified as a dilapidated culvert that serves little or no purpose. As an interim solution to the problem, and while architectural drawings are being drafted for the proposed bridge, we are asking Palm Beach County to regularly, daily if needed or weekly at the very least, spray Lake Ida to further reduce the collection of unnecessary weeds. Thank you for listening and taking the ideas into consideration for the safety of our community today and for future generations. Sincerely, Janique DeFabrique.
Thank you, Mr. Staples. And was that the only letter or were there more? That was the only one. All right, thank you. Seeing no other public comments on this item is now closed. Now I'd like to open the discussion to my colleagues. Commissioner Turkin, this is your district, so let's begin with you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you everyone who came and spoke on this. We talked about this last time this was brought up, and I think one of the potential solutions, and because there's a problem here, and I think the first thing is there's an underlying issue with the culvert. I think we've both heard from our constituents that there is an underlying issue. Spraying is a Band-Aid. The other thing is who is liable to pay for this. We identified that the homeowners are, right? I don't know if I wholeheartedly agree with that because I'm looking here at the Lake Ida Canal. And if you look here on Google Earth and you look at the canal just east of Diane Drive, and you look at this culvert on the north and south side, it is tiny. And then if you look on the other side where Lake Eden is, you don't see that. I'm not an engineer by any means, but I can look at this and see that there's an issue. The other thing is the accountability of spraying. If the county is spraying Lake Ida, like Mr. Fishman mentioned, and they're dropping the ball there and it's causing issues here in this canal, then what are we doing to help these homeowners? I know prior when we discussed this, there was talks about, I think, an environmental grant that we could use to cover the cost, because I do think that the spraying needs to continue until the underlying issue is resolved. Have we made any traction? And this is a question for city staff in looking into that environmental grant to cover this cost for a year while we identify how to tackle this issue?
I'm not aware of progress on that environmental grant, so I'll defer to Assistant City Manager Mac, but I'm pretty sure that we have not moved in that direction specifically because what the discussion was at the workshop and at the budget conversations was to continue doing this and continue to try and work through this issue. I know there's a concern that, there's a issue with the drainage culvert. I'm not an engineer either, so I'm going to have to defer to my content expert in engineering to give me a better feel of that, because what my opinion is doesn't really matter. What the engineer who understands what hydrology is and all those things probably matters more than me. So,
sure.
Max, do you have anything to add?
Andrew Mack, Assistant City Manager, Public Services. As the residents have stated, this solution was brought about because of the long-term problem they've had out there with the weeds. So this was the solution that was presented that pretty much everyone had agreed to, that it was again a short-term solution that would help handle the spraying that was on the private canals. Now that is the biggest issue here. These are private canals. They own the underlying land under the water. So, and the code is pretty clear that we cannot spend public dollars on private property. So that's
Right.
kind of why we're in this predicament, and we've gone full circle on this, and we're back to the beginning again. I appreciate Mr. Fishman. I mean, we met out there on site, and he's been trying to get with FWC and the county to see if they would take this on and be a part of their, which is a great solution if we can get that done. To this point, all the information I've gotten from FWC and the county was that they would not be willing to do that for the same reason, that it's private lakes. So at this point, I think, for us, this, in order to keep this in a condition to where they want it, we need to go ahead and move forward with the canal spraying.
Right.
And then, like you mentioned, the grant part, I have not identified any grants that are available specifically for this, other than what's at FWC, which Mr. Fishman has been trying to liaison with them to get a better clarification on whether they would take this on.
Right. So I understand that, and we went over all this last time we discussed this. My question was, had we looked into anything? Have we explored this option further since this last discussion? Andrew, I know you've been on site many times. I just don't know is there anything that we can do to mitigate the cost now within legal respect while we address the underlying issue, which is the culvert?
I'm not aware of any environmental grants that could be used for this other than the one which was spoken about from FWC that they provide for this specific aquatic maintenance.
Right.
And they've already told us that they would not give us money for this particular situation.
What about with the county?
I'm not aware of, again, in any grants that the county, they have money that they appropriate to do the work. And I believe, again, this has been going on for a long time. So some of this is, I'm bringing previous administrators' viewpoints. I have not spoken to the county myself personally, but my understanding was the county has denied that request as well. As far as the culvert and the drainage, I had met with the residents and told them that we're looking at doing a master plan for drainage in this whole area. And when we look at that master plan, we would evaluate further the culvert and whether that was going to be a need to be replaced or not.
Thank you for clarifying, Andrew.
Commissioner Turkin, I'm sorry to interrupt. We did have conversations with the county years ago on this, and at one point they had agreed they would set up what's called an MSTU, Municipal Taxing Service District, or an MSBU benefit district. And then they change administration or attorneys or whatever the case may be. They advised the city they were not going to do that.
And this was years ago.
This was years ago.
Okay.
This was maybe, I don't know, Tim Howard was here, so it was a while back.
10, you said 10?
No, it's about probably 6 to 8 years ago, I would say.
Okay.
You're trying my memory on that, but yeah.
6 to 10, we'll call it 6 to 10. So what I would propose is we hold off on adopting this. And I would like to ask city staff to reach out to the county and see what we can do to accommodate these homeowners while we identify what we can do to address the underlying issue, which is the culvert. So I'd like to hear what my colleagues have to say about that, because I think that is at least an effort on our behalf to answer the concerns of the people here.
Commissioner, I think you hit it right in the head, which is to say that we've got two problems here. We have an underlying issue that needs to be addressed. And I just heard from Andrew, Mr. Mack, that we do have, or he's working on a long-term, what did you call it, a master plan for canals?
No, what we're working on is a citywide master plan for drainage.
Okay.
And then when we look at this, we're going to set up districts in which we look at drainage in district areas. And this would be one of the areas that we would look at.
Excellent.
And just to speak to the culvert, the culvert is not going to prevent weeds from if you replace the culvert, I think the one thing that they're asking for is a bridge, which would allow free flow of water. So a culvert's not, replacing the culvert with another culvert isn't going to do it here. So, because that weeds get pushed in from Lake Ida, like he's saying. So that with the culvert there, it's not the culvert that's undersized, or it's the weeds from Lake Ida that are being pushed up in there from the movement of the water. So the culvert's not restricting, it's the weeds that are out flowing out into the lake that come through the full lakes of chain of lakes through there, or through the canal system. So we can talk to, the first I've heard of the problem with the county not spraying their system. We had a problem recently with our vendor, which we've now hired a new vendor and are working with them. So we have terminated that contract and we have a new vendor out here working on this.
That's good to hear. And I'm glad you're ultimately working on the underlying issue. And I know that's going to be a long-term effort. In the short term, I understand, why this assessment came about, because it needs to be handled as quickly as possible. However, I want to make sure that we try everything else we can before we proceed with an assessment. I think we should consider that as a last case scenario. So if there's something more to be done by reaching out to the county again, let's exhaust all those other possibilities before we finalize on an assessment. Okay, so that's where I stand on this. Let's hear from my colleagues. Vice Mayor Cruz.
I wanted to ask the attorney, can you get together with Mr. Fisher and look into that statute or those words he was stating, because there's a reason for this issue. And if we can make an argument that there's a cause and effect, maybe we could find a potential, maybe not a full solution, but maybe some sort of assistance from Fish and Wildlife Service.
Vice Mayor, I did write down the rule number that was put into the record, and I can look that up. I can get with Andrew Mack and see if we have any contacts with FWC, before the next meeting on the 22nd.
And then additional to that, I think we should reach back out to the county. I know we did it about 6 to 7 years ago. But I think it's important that we at least attempt it at this time with the current elected officials, and that we reiterate how important it is to our constituents as we are part of Palm Beach County as well.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Hay, did you want to add anything or you have any questions?
No, I agree with my colleagues. I do feel that with commissioners and political office turning over regularly on a regular basis, there are some new minds that may be a little more receptive this time around. So I do agree with reaching out to the county and going that route again. And let's just pray that things turn out better.
Thank you, Commissioner. I do have a follow-up question for legal. Mr. Cirillo, can you provide some clarification? Is this private property or is this public property? That's number one. And number two, and I'm not sure if this question is for you or for perhaps Mr. Mack, do we see this in other places in the city? Is this a one-off issue or is there something more widespread?
I can tell you, my understanding is that these canals are privately owned and that the property lines go down like towards the middle of them. So this solution was put in place so that the city could basically take care of a service for these property owners, but then only have these property owners pay for that service. I'm not familiar whether there's similar situations in other parts of the city or whether there's any long-term solutions. I just know that that's how this mechanism came to be, because it was because of the way that these canals are uniquely situated, the unique problems of them and the ownership of them, that this was a way of having those folks who directly benefit pay for the service that the city provides, as opposed to another government entity or the homeowners getting their own private vendor. It's like, and again, that's my understanding is it's correct that there is no neighborhood association out there like an HOA that could assume responsibility for these like you would see in other communities. So that's why over the years, this had come to be like the solution, to raise the, few $1,000s that was needed so that the people who directly benefited from that service would pay for that service. We can go back and look again. I can get with Andrew this week with the county and look at the FWC. Don't know if we can get every answer that you might need by the 22nd, but we'll do our best to get more information for you by that night.
All right, Vice Mayor Cruz.
Yeah, one thing I remember, Commissioner Turkin, you mentioned some sort of a grant program or potentials for that. So I guess there were three things I wanted to focus on specifically, speaking to the Fish and Wildlife Service, speaking to the county, and then doing some research, whether it's a national grant, a state grant, or a county grant of some sort. If there's anything that we can do to help alleviate the homeowners, I think we need to exhaust every potential avenue.
Yeah, and I know Andrew has reached out to FWC like he mentioned, so I think reaching out to the county is that it needs to be done yesterday. And then I think there needs to be a sense of urgency on it as well, so it doesn't fall through the cracks. I know 2 weeks isn't a lot of time. I just ask you to do the best you can.
We'll get on it.
And City Attorney, can you just clarify also when this needs to be addressed again?
Well,
worst case scenario.
I would say continue it to the next meeting and let's see what information we can have, because ideally you can, even though it's not a lot of money, it's still part of the budget. You don't leave any unknown gaps. And if we're not able to get the answers by then, we'll see if there's any alternatives. If it's still the pleasure of the commission not to move forward or do something different, we'll look at the timing issues on that. We may have more flexibility because we're collecting it ourselves. We're not going on a tax bill. The next assessment you're considering has to be done and to the property appraiser by the 15th. But this one here, we may be able to put it off since we are invoicing it. But I could check with Andrew and we can report back on that as well on the 22nd. But for now, I'd ask just to continue it for 2 weeks. Let us see if we can get those answers. And if we can, then you can include it as part of your budget. If you can't, we can figure it out on the 22nd.
Commissioner Hay, so your hand was up.
Could we also add ballpark figures on what we're talking about? With the different options that we have. How much are we talking about, and what would it cost? What would be the cost to the residents if we selected like the bridge or something, the different options?
So it looks like it's around 7,200. Did I say that right?
Well, the total that would be
For the
collected by this
spring.
assessment would be about 7,200.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's if you move forward with the assessment as it's designed tonight, or move
And there's
forward
some
with it.
delinquencies there too.
Yes.
So that, I mean, if I'm a homeowner and I'm paying my fair share and someone else isn't, like,
We have mechanisms, but we haven't used it. The hope is that you send out the new bill or whatever, and they pay 2 years. Eventually, remember we discussed at the workshop the possibility of converting it and putting it on a tax roll. If it goes on a tax roll, people will have to pay it, including arrears. That's one of the payment rates. That's one of the benefits of being able to put something on a tax roll is the payment rates are much higher than invoicing.
How many residents are we talking about?
Do we have an answer? How many?
I think it's
37.
100 properties.
100.
Yeah, 100 total.
So 70, 7,200,
7,200.
100. I mean, that's kind of cheap. But anyway, okay, just bring it back.
We'll bring back the answers so you can make some decisions in 10 days, 2 weeks, excuse me.
All right, thank you. And Commissioner Kelly, I just want to make sure I give you an opportunity to speak. Did you want to add anything, or did you have any questions?
I did. I agree with my colleagues that we can, we can put this off and get some clarity. One of the things when we talked about this before was that this should, on all of our minds, be a temporary fix. And if that means that in the long run, FWC or someone else takes over the portions of the canal, or we revisit that, or we determine who could take over the maintenance of the canal. That was something that was important to me, is that, although their property line is in the canal, you don't realize that property. So then, it's, if you have a front yard, but you can't use that front yard as a front yard, should you pay to have it mowed? So that's kind of my thought process on it, is that as my understanding, it was a temporary solution to get the canals cleaned up, to get them to where we could see if the water was flowing, we could see if they're able to keep themselves maintained. So I don't want to see this becoming an ongoing thing. So I agree with my colleagues that we need to be proactive on this for sure.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any final comments or questions from my colleagues? Hearing none, I'm going to ask for a motion here, and I believe it's a motion to table to the next meeting.
Motion to table.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to table item 2B.
Let me specify to September 22nd.
There we go. I was about to ask you. Thank you so much. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those who oppose say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, now we're going to move on to item 2C. It reads proposed resolution number R22-117. Conduct a public hearing to adopt the final assessment resolution for the fiscal year 2022-2023 fire assessment. Is there anybody from staff that would like to open up this item? Otherwise, I'll proceed to public comments. There's nothing else to add? All right, just as a reminder, fire assessment rate will remain the same. And so now I'd like to open the floor to public comments. And let's begin with those in the room. And I'd like to ask if staff could look into the AC of the chambers. That would be greatly appreciated. I thought I was the only one, Commissioner. No, okay. All right, please begin when you're ready.
Cindy Falco Di Corrado. When I got my bill, I see it's a $120 assessment. First of all, why are we being assessed? Don't we pay that out of our budget for fire department? And I personally don't want to be assessed $120. And when you count up all the homes that are in the city of Boynton Beach and in Boynton Beach, and you add that 120, that's just ridiculous. It really hurts into my budget. I was told somewhere that you can opt out. I would like to know the information how to opt out of paying the $120 for this fire department assessment. I think it's again, a beast of the burden on the people. It's another way to get tax dollars from us who are hard earning and some of us who are retired and we're on limited funds. And I don't think that this should, I've never once, and all the time I've lived here in almost 10 years, used the fire department. And again, I believe that they're in your budgets when you do your budgeting for the year. And I'd like to know why in the world are we paying $120 per each person that owns a home in this community? And that's a lot of dollars. I thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments on this item? Please approach the podium now. Again, we are limiting the comments specifically to the fire assessment. After we conclude with in-person public comments, we'll go online, and then I'll ask the clerk for any written items.
Hi, I want to give my passport legal name and birth certificate. Ernest George McNolly. My passport address, 710 Northeast 7th Street, Boynton Beach. My passport condo number, 407-33435 Boynton Beach. My phone number, 561-788-3888. And my email, rmcnolly@gmail.com. And everything's here. I wish everybody in this room would bring it. The way things are today, you know, it's good for security. And mine has that, you know, one that's connected to the Secret Service. You scan it and they can see the doctor who slapped me when I was born. This thing with the firehouse is out of control with this equipment and with the whole firehouse, with the whole department. I go to the meetings. You got to hear the banter, the collusion, like, yeah, money. It's all about money and benefits. And you never hear one word about people whose houses are burning. They'll let 65 people live in a one-bedroom house, like in some people in District 4 who claim they live there that don't. You know what I'm talking about, right? Some people up on the dais claim they live in District 4. There's like 700 people with the same name living at that address. You can't do that. Those are fire hazards. You can't do that. You can't allow, when you declare all these buildings on Ocean Avenue condemned, right? You can't let the fire department let the people stay in there. They're hazards. You know, and then because of all the homeless, because of all the crime and everything, right? The fire department keeps saying, we need more ambulances. Yeah, we got a lot of calls here. Well, why don't the police end the crime and then you won't need any ambulances? You won't even need the fire department. And if they do a good enough job, you won't even need the police department. Save a lot of money. 70% of our budget to police and firemen. And look at the ratings of the FBI, the Attorney General, of everything in this city. Crime, corruption, fraud, shootings, murders, bad schools, right? And ineffective fire department, police department. They don't prevent things. All they do is come to meetings and BS. You know what I mean by BS? Everything's
Thank you. Thank you. No, I will not let you attack our people. Thank you. Your time has expired. Next speaker, please approach the podium.
Good evening. My name is Jim Sizik. I live in Ledgerville. I apologize for not doing my due diligence on this fire assessment. But in understanding the dollar amount that was just disclosed of $120, I would ask, how does this compare percentage-wise to previous fire assessments? Is it comparable? Is this, 300% more than we've ever been assessed? I don't know. And I'm just kind of curious. It seems like an outlandishly high number, all of a sudden being dropped on everybody. And I don't know if this pertains to everybody in every district, or this is just selectively, or it's done by a percentage across the districts based on assessed value of the properties and such. I would just, if possible, I would like you to possibly entertain some of those questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other in-person public speakers pertaining to the fire assessment? All right. Begin when you're ready.
My name is Christy Ward, and I'm with the gentleman. I'm not really sure about this assessment. Haven't done my due diligence about it. It's kind of like just catching me off guard. But if we're going to pay for something, I would like to understand what are we paying for. It being just put on here like this is just like a little small synopsis. It doesn't really go into detail as to what's entailed with this assessment. Why is it being brought upon us? And I would like to have like more information concerning it, as far as like past assessments. Were there assessments in the past? Why all of a sudden now? And it's a lot coming for it, considering we have a lot of elderly people. We have a lot of people who are really struggling to make ends meet. And so it's like constantly dropping assessments. Oh, you got to pay for this. You got to pay for that. You got to pay for this. You got to pay for that. And the thing is, some of the services are not being utilized or the services are not going forward as they should. So I'm really asking if we could put some more clarity on this, at least for your constituents, so we can understand exactly what are we getting into. Just don't sign the dotted line for me. I would like to know what we're getting into. I want to make sure that the hands are clean when we're going into this, and to find more about this assessment going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please approach the podium. And we do have 2 podiums, so we can always take turns.
Yes, my name is Evangeline Ward, 1518 North Seacrest Boulevard, Boynton Beach, Florida. And the previous gentleman, like it says, I didn't do my due diligence, but I know a lot of homeowners during the months of April, whatever the case may be. I don't think you guys realize, maybe you do if you own your own homes. All of a sudden, our insurance companies, they've hit us. And they didn't just hit us with a low ball. They hit us with a high ball. And it's mandatory that we have windstorm. It's mandatory that we have this. It's mandatory. It's almost like everybody's like, even with the insurance companies, we're going to make sure that you don't go in any longer than 10 years on your roof, then we don't have to pay to replace your roof. You understand? It's just it's snowballing between the insurance companies and, like she says, a lot of the elderly people, a lot of the young ones with the mortgages and everything. Come on. There's no raises. There's no increases and everything. And it seems like it's a system to take people's dwellings. If you don't pay it, we're going to assess you for it. You're going to have to pay it one way or another and everything. So, when you're deciding, it's just not for your budget. It's for my budget and my home. See, I don't know about none of y'all, but I was widowed when I was 32 years old. And now I'm 71. And y'all says, thank you for your service. But Agent Orange in Vietnam, that's what killed my husband. So let us think, you understand? The government haven't given me any more money. Social Security hasn't given me any more money. And like you said, at a certain age, we've got to come home. Who's going to hire me right now? And it grieves my heart when I see these old people at Publix trying to work and they can barely push a cart, medical bills and everything. So is it something that we're going to do continuously, hit us with, or whatever the case may be? But let us know, what does it entail? What's the details in it? Is it a necessity? And that's what we really need to know. And we need to count the cost, not just for this city, but for our households. Because there's a lot of things that we're spending money on this city that we shouldn't be spending it on. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yvonne Scovron, 350 North Federal Highway, apartment 1405. I do appreciate the previous comments that, yes, it would be a good idea to have a breakdown of what that actual assessment is for. But personally, I've had to call the fire brigade many times, and I just think they do a wonderful job, and I think they are underappreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, Donald Tarka Jr., live at 1086 Southwest 25th Place in Boynton Beach in Gulfy Harbor. So I went to your page because I hear everybody talking about this, and I click on the fire assessment. It says, sorry, you do not have permission to access this page. So I was trying to, everybody's saying they didn't do their due diligence, so I tried to do my due diligence sitting here, and I go here and I don't have access to it. So I think that's something that might need to be addressed. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wesley, 1859 Delray Beach. I'm just curious, if y'all trying to do assessment and put it on the burden of the elderly people, Ty, did you have a town hall meeting with the whole community and districts and tell them about the situation, or the city manager or the lawyer? Did y'all go out and tell them before y'all even was thinking about it, did you have a dialogue with them? Because this is going to be a burden on the older people. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to run a city, but the city is still corrupt. That don't make no sense. Because if these people gonna have to pay for that, then you basically trying to get them out of their house. Because we know the city, fire department, and the police station is got the biggest budget. And if they got the biggest budget, we know what the union trying to do. Now we know the games that we know the games that y'all playing with the 4 votes. So I'm aware of what's going on. So what I'm saying is y'all need to stop with these games, with this assessment, because these people is not gonna be able to afford this at the end of the day. And if you putting a burden on them, what is gonna lead the city to? Picking up the bag somewhere else? Okay, and then if the assessment is for the fire department, what are they using the money for? I want it in black and white, because a word of mouth don't mean nothing with y'all up there no more. And if we can't get that in writing, then that's when we have to go to the court and start filing injunctions on this, because this is not right for the people. And if you for the people, you will stand with the people.
Are there any other in-person public comments pertaining to the fire assessment fee? Seeing none, Darren, do we have anybody online, or Monty?
We currently have no hands raised, sir.
All right, thank you. Let's go to the city clerk. Do we have anything in writing? City manager or city clerk? I'm seeing a no. All right, so that will close public comments. So what I'd like to do now is actually I'd like to ask 3 questions for staff, if that's all right. Number 1, how many years have we had a fire assessment? Number 2, has that changed over time in the past several years, or has it remained the same? And number 3, for families that are struggling, is there a hardship exemption? Could you just address those 3 points, either city attorney or city manager?
Well, I'll address, we've had a fire assessment in place for a number of years, and it has increased over time. However, over the last 5 years, for sure, it has not changed based on inflation and all those things. It stayed constant. So I can assure you that in the last 5 years, it has not increased. I'll ask the director of finance to come up and actually give specificity to how long it's been and what it is.
Thank you, and thank you, Mara.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Mara Frederickson, Director of Financial Services. So the fire assessment actually went into place, I believe, in 2001. And at that time, it was $66. The last 5 years, it has been $120. We do have a hardship application form that actually will go on the website as of tomorrow. That's why that link is not working until this fire assessment is passed tonight. And any of the residents who meet any of those guidelines, whether it's poverty, disability, and I think there's an age also exemption as well for that hardship application, can file for that and they would be exempt from that. And we do send that out to every resident that has applied to it in previous years. They will get the hardship application as soon as this is approved.
Thank you, and could you just remind me, what is this fire assessment used for?
It is used to fund capital operating expenses and to supplant the budget so the millage rate can be reduced and the general fund does not have to fund as much of the fire department as it would have to had you not had this in place.
And is this assessment different for different people or different neighborhoods?
No.
Okay.
It is done on a methodology that is fairly distributed and challenged every year through the process, and I'll let the attorney speak to that.
This Mike Cirillo, city attorney. The residential rate is the same for each residential unit. There is a different formula for non-residential based on square footage, and those rates differ based on demand, call demand. And this funds a portion of the fire budget, does not fund any EMS. All EMS is funded through the general fund.
Okay, thank you to all 3 of you for the clarification. Do my colleagues have any question? Commissioner Hay?
I do have one question for our former chief. is what you guys spend that fire assessment public information? In other words, you had a fire assessment for the last 5 years. Is there a way that we can see what you spent it for? Is that public information?
The answer is absolutely. Everything is transparent. So now, can I call out where that specific revenue source went? The answer is no. There's a collective budget that pays for all services out of the fire department. It was one of my discussions during the budget workshop, though, where I wanted to earmark it specifically for operating costs, facilities, capital improvements, those things, because the stable funding source, I'll go back to what I said about municipal finance. When we attach something to a property valuation without a business model based on a millage rate that needs to go down because everybody feels like it's too high, it costs money to do the business of the city. And at the end of the day, those things have to be stably funded to provide for the risk that's associated with the city we live in. So that's the reason for that. Now, can I call out that the $120 per residential and the varying rate based on commercial risk and square footage? I can't tell you that this specific amount of money went to this specific project.
Right. I understand that, but what I'm saying, how would the typical citizen go about getting that information? Is it through the normal channel of going through the clerk and requesting public records?
They would ask for the budget, and there may be some explanation required for people because the general population doesn't understand how to read a budget that way. So the answer is yes, that would be available.
Just as a quick follow-up, Mara, have we uploaded online yet this new budget?
We have the proposed budget, and then we have the reconciliation for the changes from the proposed budget to.
Excellent. And the hardship application is
Will
or
be
will be?
available tomorrow, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's an option for anybody. Commissioner Kelly, and we'll go down the dais.
My only comment was I had an opportunity to look at the hardship application because it's attached to our packet. And I just wanted, the residents who have a hardship, the deadline is quick. It's October 17th for you to apply for hardship. So please stay on top of that because there is hardship exceptions available. And Mara, how many, and this was one of the questions that came to my mind when I was looking at it, how many hardships do we receive annually, and are they being utilized? Or
So typically we get about 32 hardship applications. Generally, unless they just don't meet the requirements, all of them are approved. They have to supply their last year's tax return or some sort of financial for the poverty guidelines. If they meet the disability or the age exemption based on the property appraiser, they can submit that, and that also approves them.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Commissioner?
Yeah, I just want to I just want to say there's a lot of confusion here because this assessment has been in place and it was proposed to be raised. We all decided, no, we are not going to raise it. And I think that if we had the budget workshop later in the evening where more people could attend, we would eliminate that confusion. And so I think we should look into that. That's a side note. But I want to reiterate, this was proposed to increase. We collectively said we are not going to do that. We're going to lower the millage rate because it doesn't make sense to lower the millage rate and increase in assessment. So I think that if there was more, participation outside the working day, that would be clear. Because all of us work, and it's hard to get days off. Not just us, but also the public. So I would like to, take that into consideration for next fiscal year. And when we do these budget workshops, we do them when we can have better participation. That is all.
All right, anything else?
Vice Mayor
yeah.
Cruz?
Yeah, same thing, just reiterating, it was proposed to raise it to 180. We kept it at 120 as it has been for the past 5 years. So we as a voting body decided to not increase the fire assessment. And as you will see later this evening, we've decided to also lower the millage rate for homeowners and businesses. If possible, I don't mind reading this into the record, or if somebody else wants to do it. But just for the sake of the public, if we can just let the public know what those requirements are for the assistance for the fire assessment. There's quite a few on there, but
I don't have it in front of me if you wanted
okay.
to. Go ahead.
In the reso, I believe. Give me just a second.
Yeah, it's attached. In the meantime, I can just start so we don't waste time. One of the requirements is I qualify for the additional homestead exception for persons 65 and over, as noted on the attached ad valorem taxes and non-ad valorem taxes assessments. The next thing would be I qualify for the Florida Homestead Property Tax Deferral Act. The next one is being a totally disabled veteran or the surviving spouse of a totally disabled veteran, and being exempt to ad valorem taxes pursuant to Florida statutes. The next requirement would be to be the surviving spouse of a first responder who died in the line of duty. I know somebody mentioned that earlier, and that's why I found it to be relevant, and being exempt from ad valorem taxes. The next one would be being a disabled veteran confined to a wheelchair and being exempt from ad valorem taxes. The next one would be being permanently and totally disabled and being exempt from the ad valorem taxes. And then the last two are permanently and totally disabled first responder and being exempt from the ad valorem taxes. And the last one would be meeting the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services poverty guidelines as listed on the application. That's it. Anything else?
All right, we have heard from the public, we have heard from staff, the commission has had a discussion. At this time, I'd like to request for a motion to adopt proposal resolution number R22-117. May I have that motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number R22-117. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. We are now moving on to item 2D. Conduct first public budget hearing for fiscal year 22-23, proposed millage and tentative annual operating budget. And there are two associated resolutions on this item. Let me just read those two items. The first proposed resolution is number R22-118, adopt the proposed millage rate for the general fund for fiscal year 22-23. And the second associated proposed resolution is R22-119, adopt the tentative budget for the general fund and all other funds for fiscal year 22-23. Would my colleagues like to hear from staff on this item as well? Should we begin with staff? All right, hearing no requests from my colleagues. Everybody's good? All right, let's open the floor for public comments on these items. But you know what I'd like to do before we do that? Can we at least state what the new millage rate is? So that's clear for the record. Mara?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Mara Fredrickson, Director of Financial Services. The new millage rate did decrease from 7.89 to 7.85.
Okay. And Mara, is there anything else the public should know about the amended changes? I know there was a long list.
There was.
Do you want to give us a synopsis?
Sure. I can give you kind of the basics of changes. So the ad valorem taxes on the revenue side, I should say, we did receive an update on our assessed values. So that actually did increase. So even with the decrease of the 7.89 to the 7.85, we experienced a revenue increase of about 366,000. We also received our updates from the state on our revenue sharing and our sales tax for about $1.1 million increase in revenue. So that was increased to the budget. The change in the fire assessment from the 180 to the 120 in the proposed budget did decrease the revenues by about $3 million. And then our change to fund balance, we're giving back to fund balance $2.7 million. That was a change to fund balance of about 1.9 million. On the expenditure side for the general fund, we had a $13,000 increase, and that's an adjustment for the commission salary for the CPI adjustment. We added the additional economic development coordinator for about $20,000. We increased the part-time position for the library technology trainer from part-time to full-time. That was $29,000. And then we added $380,000 for Pirate Fest as far as the expenditures on the general fund side. So those are the most significant changes as far as.
All right, do I have questions and comments from my colleagues?
Yes.
Vice Mayor?
I do have a quick question. For the economic development coordinator,
Correct.
did you say they made $20,000?
So we added $20,000 to supplement what was already budgeted. So because we had the development director, we split some of that and made 2 coordinators, and then we have a development manager. So it was additional 20,000.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Commissioner Turkin, I saw your hand was up.
Just looking at the CapEx plan, where it says Forest Hill Park, is that Forest Park, the site plan, Andrew?
Which item is that? I'm sorry.
It's so the surtax capital improvement plan.
Mario, can I get the Public Works Director come up to answer that?
There's a line item that says Forest Hill Park. I'm just curious.
I don't
if
have it in front of me, so I don't see
Okay,
it.
I'm
That's
sorry.
it.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that. We can get back to that. It popped to me and I just had a quick question. I know there's been talks about a potential park going in Forest Park next to the church on Southwest 6th.
That is not that.
Okay.
Correct. That is not that.
Okay.
If that is, that's most likely the improvements to Forest Hill Park in Chapel Hill.
Okay, got it.
All right, anything else from my colleagues? Questions or comments? Otherwise, I'd like to move on to public comment for this item. Mara, thank you so much.
No, I'm good.
You're good?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, let's move on to public comments on this item again, specifically pertaining to the proposed millage rate and the tentative annual operating budget. We have 2 podiums. As always, you will have 3 minutes. Please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Cindy Falco di Corrado. My question is, as we just discussed, that it's going to be a public hearing for all of us to be able to speak into the situation. And I see that's one of the proposed number C for conduct a public hearing. When is this resolution? You're doing this tonight, so we haven't really had an opportunity to discuss it. Am I understanding it correctly? So I'm trying to understand C, where it says proposed resolution R2117, conduct a public hearing to adopt the final assessment resolution for the years of 2022 to 2023. Has that been done? Is it going to be implemented? And I just thought we discussed it. Was the people there? I didn't hear about it. I didn't know anything about this when the budget meetings are going to be. And again, when you're hosting these meetings and you change the date for even this meeting, it's not getting out there to the public. I was totally stunned. I had no idea. So communication is really being marred here. I just by accident came Tuesday. I'm like, and now I see that we're doing it every Thursday. I didn't know when that happened either. That's confusing to me as well. But the budget, if this was already done and it said to public hearing, I personally, as you know, come to many of the meetings and I would like to have public input because it affects me. I don't know how many on you up there on the dais actually own a home and are being doggy-dogged with all kinds of assessments of things that are happening that you get no services of. And then when you try to use the services, they're not there. They hang the phone up on you. They don't know why they have the service charge, extra $100 for this and money for that, and children's services and healthcare. And it's just ridiculous. So I don't know how many of you actually own a home and see your bills and really look at them and see what you're being charged. And so it's really a problem to me to be assessed for something else when I'm being already charged for all these other things. Like I said, I don't know how many of you own a home. And if you do, you would be upset like we are, because we the people are paying out the goo for stuff that we don't even have or can't get accessible to or not even privy to. And it's wrong. You shouldn't make people have to pay for other people's charities when we're charitable people on our own recognizances, and it's really bothersome. So I'd like to know when this meeting is, and if it's already happened, then how do we have input into this? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please approach the podium.
Hello, Donald Harker Jr. again from Bellevue Harbor. So I understand the whole purpose of the millage rates is to divide your costs from the homeowners based on the value of your house. But if you're doing special assessments and you're charging $120 for a guy that has a $100,000 house and $120 for somebody that has a $2 million house, percentually, it's not fair. That's the whole purpose of the millage rate, is to divide it up equally. So by doing this, I understand you're trying to do this end run to keep the millage rates right, but you're not being fair. You're going around it to keep the millage rates right by giving these assessments, but the assessment's not fair to a lower income house. You're screwing the lower income people and you're giving the rich people a tax break. So that's really, I think the special assessments should go away. You should go in with the regular budget, make it go in. If the millage rate has to go up, the millage rate has to go up. Because if you keep the millage rate down, but you keep making the assessments go up, in reality, the millage rate is going up. You're just playing a shell game that's not fair. And that's just my opinion on that. Thank you.
Evangeline Ward. And basically, when I'm looking and it says to adopt the tentative budget for the general fund and all other funds for fiscal year 2022 and 2023. Okay. And I'm back at this thing. What does that all entail? My one question that I really want to, ask, because this young lady brought it up again, is the key, if we're going to keep painting this LGBTQ, that's almost $8,000, she says, a month. Yeah, and we've done it. Is that part of this budget? I just want to ask, okay, is that, is that going to be included, that every month that's part of our assessment too? Because if it is, then I want Black Lives Matter right at the beginning of Ocean Avenue as you come to. So if we all gonna pay, let us all have our own cause. That's the way I feel. And if there's any other communities, whether they're Jewish or whatever, and they want a Star David, then they should be at Federal Highway, and we all should get a piece of the pie since we paying our taxes. I just want to make sure. Thank you.
All right, last call for in-person public comments. All right, I see one more person after this person. We're gonna go online. Okay, two more people in this room.
Christy Ward. I'm just gonna piggyback off of what she said. Most of these things are proposed to whom? Just you, or proposed also to the 87,000 constituents that you have here. We are not counting the cost, nor are we taking into consideration things that are really pretty much reading, writing, arithmetic is the numbers game. And no matter, it just seems like we cater to those who are well fortunate than those who are struggling and who are trying to make ends meet. And so I'm just wondering about these proposals and the fiscal year and all these things that are coming up. We've come in here before and we said we spend $22,000 basically for paint to paint here. I don't understand that. Pride Month, and nothing against anyone of any color, creed, and how you live. The thing is, $22,000 or whatever it is for paint is crazy to me. When we are already talking about we're going down a rabbit hole of being in some kind of deficit. It doesn't make any sense. if we are going to be there for those who celebrate Pride Month in the month of June, Juneteenth is also in June, and nothing was put in Boynton Beach to signify that. So the thing is, we need to like really start cutting into this budget the right way. I don't know, nothing against y'all, but like common sense to me is 22,000 for paint. No, you better go to Home Depot and try to get whatever you can get. I really don't understand. We need to put our budget on a diet. We are spending too much money on lavish things that really don't make any sense. I'm really trying to understand this. And if it's proposed, it should be proposed to those who are married into this thing, and that is your constituents.
Next speaker, and this is the last in-person public comment, then we'll move to online.
Hi, I'm gonna show my passport and my birth certificate. Ernest George Mignoli, 710 Northeast 7th Street, condo 407, Boynton Beach, Florida, 33435. In here, it says my information, everything, my picture. Right? And I tell you the truth, I'd feel more comfortable. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I feel more comfortable if everybody on this dais next meeting would show me this, because really, you put on papers that you live here and you live there. The passport says where you live. That's what's important, and it says your name. So you could say whatever you want here, like when I ask, is that your name? And you say, get out, shut up, be quiet, don't be disrespectful. All I'm asking for is to see your passport. What's wrong with that? Got nothing but frauds going on here. We should know who we're talking to. Why is that disrespectful? And the millage thing that you're doing, this whole stuff that you're doing, with these assessments, it's frightening what you're doing. You're letting billionaires off with a few $100, and then you're going after people who don't even have food. God bless them, believe me, the way they're being treated in this city. And can I tell you something? The way this board is dealing with supposedly equally with people, it ain't happening in this city. Look at me. I'm a senior. I'm on a fixed income. You know what I mean? Why should I have to pay the same as some billionaire who owns this CRA property out here? All these developers and stuff, and they're paying the same thing. What is wrong with this picture? And what's frightening is every time we have these meetings and somebody comes up and talks about inequality here, you either shut them up, throw them out, or when we clap, we like what they say. At the meeting, the next time when you post it online, you edit out all the clapping for the people who want to know. Why are you doing that? And you edit out when there's 700 police officers here with their hands on the gun. Yeah. Why do you edit everything out? And then you turn around and you say, oh, we're afraid of you. What do you think we are of you? Hello? Cruz, you got this thing that everybody is threatening you. We're more afraid of you than anybody.
Sir, your time has expired. Your time is expired. No, I am terminating your time. The rules are you do not attack anyone here. All right, we are now moving online to any public comments. Mani, do we have anybody online?
Mr. Mayor, we do not have any hands raised currently.
All right, so City Clerk, I'd like to ask, do we have anything in writing?
No, Mayor.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask you to quiet down so we can proceed with business. City Clerk, what did you say?
We do not.
We do not. All right. So we have now heard public comment. We have heard from the members of the commission. Are there any final questions or comments from my colleagues? Yes, Commissioner Turkin, let's begin with you.
Again, I just want to stress the importance of next fiscal year that we have the budget workshop at a time that's convenient for everybody. Because I think there would be a lot more transparency and participation and information with that workshop. Mr. McNolly was the only one that gave public comment at that workshop. There wasn't many participants there because it was during work hours. So again, I'm gonna stress, we should do this outside of work hours.
Thank you for those comments. Vice Mayor Cruz?
Yeah, since it's been brought up several times, I do want to reply, yes, I'm a homeowner here and I do abide by all the taxes that are levied in this city, just for the record, and I'm sure several of us on this dais are as well. Yep, that's all I had to say.
Okay, is there anything else from Commissioner Hay or Commissioner Kelly?
No.
All right, seeing no other comments and we've concluded with public comments, I'd like to ask for a motion first, beginning with proposed resolution R22-118. May I have a motion to approve that proposed resolution?
So move.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Hay. All those in favor of approving proposed resolution number R22-118, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to proposed resolution number R22-119, and this is for the general fund. I have a motion to approve that proposed resolution.
So moved.
I'm not sure who went first. Maybe Commissioner Kelly. May I have a second?
Second.
All right, Commissioner Hayes, the second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. We have now concluded public hearing. We're now moving on to announcements, community and special events and presentations. And we only have one announcement, which is that the second public budget hearing to adopt the fiscal year 22-23 budget will be held during the City Commission meeting on Thursday, September 22nd, 2022 at 6 p.m. in the City Commission chambers. All right. Yes, City
Also
Attorney.
will be the second public hearing on the millage as well.
All right. So for the millage and the budget.
That's correct.
Is that correct? All right. So that concludes that announcement. We're now going to move on to public audience on general matters. Again, you have 3 minutes per person. We'll begin with those in the room. We'll proceed with those online. And you've done this many times. You know the drill. Let's begin on my left side with, all right. Begin when you're ready.
Good evening, Harry Woodworth. I live in Northeast 15th Place in Boynton. Pretty simple. I mentioned this a couple months ago. They keep forgetting to pick up our bulk. I don't know how hard that could possibly be. We've lived there 30 some years. They managed to do it for 29 of those. Didn't pick it up last Thursday. They all told us to put the cans out Monday. We did. Didn't bother picking those up either. Came by today, took the cans, didn't take the bulk. So now 2 weeks of garbage is laying on our street. I mean, you want to rename the place Port St. Lucie, you're well on your way. Can we fix that, please? Thank you.
All right.
Cindy Falco Di Corrado. We had a problem with our trash the last couple of weeks. They've been coming down one side picking up, but not picking up the other side. They were doing it every other day, and then they would come back and pick it up. But you pay for it to be picked up on the same day. Also with our trash pickup, they're doing Saturday instead of the Friday. They're making their own rules. I don't know what's happening in that department. But again, I was starting earlier to say that it was last meeting that I was here, a gentleman said the police do not have to take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. And I said, yes, they do. And I looked it up because notice to agent is notice to principal, and notice to principal is notice to agent. And the Constitution of the United States of America is still the supreme law of the land. That's Article 6, Section 2. The police need to be taught about the Constitution, as well as every employee that works needs to know the Constitution of the United States of America. You swear an oath to uphold it and to protect it. We are also in the month of September. I haven't seen my heterosexual month yet, as we've been talking about the monies that we're spending on a sign on a road that's supposed to be 1 month in June, and now it's like 12 months every year. It's still there. I don't understand why we're still doing this and why we're still paying money for this. Also, June is over, as I shared with you, and there's also, I don't know if you know, but there's also Roe versus Wade was reversed in June, and we didn't celebrate any of that as well. Our babies have to we chose life for our babies. There's money wasted on the video camera also that's protecting that sign on the road. I don't know that many people might know that or not know that. Also the 666 seating sign, someone said it was a hurricane symbol. No, it's not a hurricane symbol because a hurricane symbol has fins on both ends. It is a 666. And I did address it with the art person that's supposedly in charge of that. Thank you for the information. No response, nothing. And it doesn't denote Boynton Beach. We're not the mark of the beast, okay? And I don't appreciate that spiritually. It hurts my spirit and it hurts my soul. So does the sign on the street. It hurts my spirit. I love the people, but we do not push agendas on people that God calls what he calls it, okay? And we love the people. And I shared with you about the garbage. And I do want to say the last thing is the bill. I want you to know, if you ever looked at the Constitution of the United States of America, did you know that taxes are voluntary? Yes, they are to our common law. We're a common law state. Taxes are voluntary. And personally, people need to do your due diligence, look up how to get out of paying your taxes because it was always voluntary and it was put upon us as if we were slaves. We are not slaves. We are men and women created in the image of God. We are not chattel that you can just go take money from our Social Security accounts on our birth certificates. We are human beings created in the image of God, and we have the power, not the government. I know it's been flipped for a long time and everybody's buying into it, but I'm asking every person that's the sound of my voice, do your due diligence. Look up the Magna Carta 61, look up the Constitution of the United States of America, and know that we have the power, we the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you begin, I'm going to ask Vice Mayor if you could hold the timer for a few minutes while I step out for a moment. I'll be right back. Last value. All right, I'll be right back.
Okay. Bishop Bernard Wright, CEO of Bernard Wright Ministries, President of Community Review Board, and currently candidate for District 2 Commissioner. Unapologetically, I'd like to say I have no ill will for any of our commissioners, know the necessity of you all being there, but I'm expecting us to just right what's wrong and let's continue to move forward doing the right thing. I'd like to talk about two things quickly within these 3 minutes. First thing is speed bumps. If you all can recall, right before this commission came in, you all placed $50,000 into the budget for speed bumps in necessary places strategically. I have some citizens here going to speak about that tonight. And it's so necessary. And I mean, we should make this a priority because for years, these children have been walking down these streets from Galaxy, Poinciana, and, you know, Southern Thoroughfare, like down my street, 2nd Street, man, like a bat out of hell. We need to, you know, really do something about this. What y'all did after them 50,000 was in the budget, they put like 4 right there at the Sarah Sims Park. That's cool. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is this ARPA money. You had a ranking, you know, and we ranked real good. And this money, like 14 million, been sitting in the bank drawing interest. And during this pandemic, which we still have, but I mean, it was back when it was very serious. None of this money has been dispensed out to certain people. Centennial Management got $500,000 to help them in their project. We thank them for that development that's coming in. I was instrumental in getting them in here. But we're talking about money that citizens need right now from that ARPA money. I don't hear no one talking about it. And I would like for you all to at least respond to us accordingly on relevant issues of this nature. And that's about to conclude. Other than right now, I want to talk about this Stanley Dale Davis III incident with this termination. We understand he's been terminated. He has a constitutional right to due process of law and the equal protection thereof, and piggybacking on what Sister just got through talking about. We all need to know our constitutional rights, but he does need to be prosecuted. And we really want to see the Department of Justice come inside of here. It seemed to be very necessary. I don't think none of us could right now sit comfortable with what's going on and what has gone on, especially since that last meeting that we have where, amen, everybody came out and spoke. And we see where racism is really in this city. It seems like people don't want to talk about it, but this is where the problem is. Racism just not with the white and black color per se, but it's with this rich and this poor also included. So we're talking about, you know, justice and equality, disparity, and total and absolute accountability. That's what this entails, you know. So we want to still think about that and keep that on the table because we know this deck is stacked and we just don't want to have to, you know, continue to have to play this hand. So let's reshuffle this deck and do what's right for the better, change for the better for the people. God bless y'all. Have a great night. You're going to hear some other citizens come up and talk about these speed bumps that we so very necessarily need inside the city. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christina. I live at 535 Northwest 12th Avenue. I'm just coming here today to express
start,
deep
stop, and
concern.
Sorry, let me give you the
Just
full time. I don't know. I press the same thing and it goes to 0. No, it's 5, 6, 7. There you go. Okay. There you go. Thank you. There you go. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Christina Pierre. I live at 535 Northwest 12th Avenue. And like Mr. Wright mentioned before, we do need speed humps. I watch people speeding up and down the streets all day. I've seen they put new speed humps by the gym and, you know, nice bushes and everything like that. And on our street, I know we've complained we seen them out there doing code enforcement and complained about the middle, and there's nothing there. The roads, potholes in them, like cars are having nails in them. There's a trash pile that just continues to pile up on the end of the street that they never really care about. But my main concern is the speed humps, because I have kids and my house is just so much, further from the road, and people speed constantly up and down that street. And I don't see why there was a speed hump put by a park first before an actual neighborhood where there's kids going to school and having to wait at a bus stop in the morning, and people are speeding early mornings. And besides the fact there's laws being put in place for loud music and everything, but I don't see what's being done about people speeding and breaking the laws and doing that. There's no stop signs there. So even if the speed humps were to be put in place, there's no stop signs going up and down the streets. And that's a concern for me, because I have 2 little kids and my son is constantly up and down the street. And I can't hold my son hostage in a yard or in a house just because there's people out there breaking the laws on the street that I live on, and that we are paying tax dollars for it, and that there was a budget put in place for those things. So the fact that I even have to come here today and speak on it, and then there was a budget put in place, that means that no one is going out there and carefully observing neighborhoods and seeing where is needed and what is needed in these neighborhoods. I see them ride a lot. I see code enforcement come. I don't know what they're coming for. I don't know what they're looking for. But I also see officers come out and they're big on people who are trespassing, but it's never nothing done about the prioritized things that need to be done and that there's budgets in place for. Thank you.
How you doing? My name is
All
Edward
right, let me
Thomas.
give you the whole 3 minutes.
How you doing? My name is Edward Thomas, and my
Okay,
concern
what-
is just
sir,
like
just
her.
give me
Hold up,
1 second.
hold up.
Wait. Oh my God. It just changed the minutes. It didn't go to 3. Sorry. It keeps changing by itself.
Okay.
Sorry.
How y'all doing today? My name is Edward Thomas, and my concern is like hers with the speed bumps and the speeding and the roads. Me and her stay together. Got a baby that's 3 years old together, and from 12th, 13th, and 10th Avenue, Northwest 12th Avenue, 13th, 10th, need speed bumps, and the roads need to be touched up a little bit. That's all my concern is today. That's it.
Wait, let me do it again.
Missed it. Missed it.
I press it to stop and maybe I'm not strong enough. I don't know. Fine.
26 minutes, I can do a lot.
26 minutes. There you go. You have your
Yes.
full time. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Christy Ward. As to them with the speed bumps, I do see a lot of people speeding through that. But also the school zone closer to Minor Road, the flashing light for both sides, one side sometimes work, the other side does not. Sometimes I see police posted in that area. I think they're a little far back that they don't see the cars that are speeding through. I've actually seen people come through where I've put myself in danger sometimes to get them to slow down because they are going at least 55 to 60 miles per hour. This is not the Indy 500. Our children are, and I mean, they blow through bus stops and everything. So if there could be police officers over there to enforce it, because sometimes the light does not work properly on a regular basis. And sometimes with the different school stops that come through there. It's not just for the kids who are during that time frame. Sometimes children are also being dropped off and people are speeding through there at very high speed rates, especially coming off from I-95 from Gateway and between Hyperlux. So in that area, it's very chancy, especially when you can't see coming around the curve, but it is like Indy 500. But we need to really be mindful of our children in that area. I'm just hoping that everything that comes forth tonight is actually laid at your hearts. You pay attention, listen, and that things can go forward to move forward, that things can be better in this city. And that's all I have to say.
I'm going to piggyback with the young couple and
Please state your
Bishop
name for
Wright
the record.
concerning,
Can you please state your name for the record?
oh, Evangeline Ward, concerning speed bumps in the heart of Boynton Beach. And like I tell you, I've been here all my life, not part of it, born and raised here. And we lived on 13th Avenue. And I'm being honest with you, and most of everyone here could verify that, even Woodrow. None of the streets where Black people live have speed bumps. Never have. The only time they put speed bumps was when they built the new Ponciana and they made it a magnet school. But when they made it a magnet school, the inner city children in our neighborhood, they bust them out of here. And even in the midst of the busing, I've contacted Mr. Andrews when all the lights were out, and thank God for him. 6 o'clock in the morning, our little children in the dark trying to catch buses and nobody stopping the speeding. And thank God he interceded and he started riding through and realized no one sees these children. My neighbor and I, we would get up 5 o'clock in the morning to make sure that our children were safe. Come on, let's be fair. We need speed bumps. And I'm not talking about something that happened yesterday. I'm talking about something that's been going on in that neighborhood for over 70 years. We love our children too. We want them safe too. And you know, if it's already in the budget, get somebody out there and put them down. Let's do this and let us do it quickly because we don't want to lose any of our babies. All of our babies are precious and important. And if you haven't done it in 70 years, make sure you do it this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wesley, 618 Delray Beach. I don't know if it's true or not, but I really don't care because I know it's true. And Haywood is brought to my light that I think what I'm about to tell y'all, you need to have an investigation because the city manager and the one that's not qualified meeting with the police officer that got fired at the ice cream parlor, that's not a good look. And if we want the chief to throw an investigation and find out what really went on. Because it seems like communication is going on with these two and the one that's not qualified.
You're not to address any specific person. You're only to address me at this time for the members of the body here.
Okay, so if he's the city manager,
There's no personal attacks. That is
That's
not the
not a
purpose of your
personal attack.
public comment. And if you're going to make a comment like that, you should have evidence.
Well, I got evidence. And don't be rude to me because I don't work for you. You work for me. See, that's the problem that y'all having because y'all ego and y'all think y'all just gonna lay on people and be rude. And then you're being rude to Mr. Haywood. This is not this type of party because I'm telling them and I'm telling you that they was at the ice cream parlor. And if that's not true, what else will be? So I'm gonna get with the Inspector General because it's time for investigation. And I like that smile.
Thank you.
Joe
Go ahead.
Josemond, I hope my landlord's not looking because I still owe him some rent money. 212 Northwest, hope he's not even looking, 12th Avenue. The reason I'm up here today is just because I'm a little bit perplexed. When I call the Public Works Department, nobody picks up. My cousins live here, my niece, everybody knew I used to work for the city, so I'm getting a lot of calls asking me why is Public Work not picking up. I can't tell them anything. I told them, hey, I don't work for the city, but it's been a lot of complaints regarding trash, regarding just communicating with the residents. Residents don't know when their trash is getting picked up, when it's not. Right now, we're going through a water restriction. So it's really, really hard for people to just maintain their yards if their vegetation is just sitting out there. All I want to just say, let's just focus on Public Works a little bit because I think they're dropping the ball. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just ask if there's anybody else who wants to speak here. If not, then go to the Zoom.
Okay. Looks, do we have any more public comment right now in person?
Oh, you're not taking any more?
We are.
Where's
Okay. Last call.
Do you have something to say?
Yeah,
Then
person
your,
walks out of a meeting.
your minutes have started.
Okay.
Wait online.
Public comment in person has closed. Now we're going to go to online. You
Vice
walked
Mayor.
away from the podium, sir.
I know.
Okay, let's go ahead and give him another chance.
Oh, you're blocking me?
You can go ahead.
Oh, I can go ahead. Oh, thank you. So here's my passport. Ernest George McNally, 710 Northeast 7th Street, Boynton Beach, condo 407. My phone number is 561-788-3888. And I have a security thing with a Secret Service clearance on the back. So you know who I am. And I like to know who everybody is. But when I come in this place, I don't feel like you got people come up to the mic and they say they're in a post office box. They don't say their name clearly. And I don't seem to understand the rules. I thought that you all said when you come up, you have to give your name, your address, your city, and your full name. That's what I thought. But you're allowing people not to do that. Some people come up, hi, I'm Kathy, and I'm from a post office box. I mean, how do we know who they are? So the idea is, I think you should establish something, maybe coming in, everybody has to show some kind of ID, green card, something, so we know who's in the room. And then establish it so that you establish it when the public comes up. Well, it's over there, but look, I got big issues with, last Thursday, I was in the biggest courtroom in the country in history. I was one of the few press that was allowed by Secret Service into the courtroom of the United States versus Donald J. Trump. I was cleared with my press pass, cleared by Secret Service. And what I find interesting is when I come here, you guys say I'm a criminal, I'm a crook, all sorts of things. And yet you could never get the clearance I have. And can I tell you something? In my life, I will never be in a more famous, historically, more famous, more secure courtroom, federal, right? Cleared by Secret Service, right? Than anybody. And you know what? 2,000 press, Channel 5, your guy, everybody had to wait outside, right? They went with who's the best. I'm one of the best. That's why I was in that courtroom. And then I come out and I say, oh, Duggar and Stables and Sean are in having ice cream in the thing. I said, look, I just got out of some. I can't. They said, well, look, they're in there. I said, look, that's a big problem because Boardwalk has big problems with politics in this town. especially with elections. And every time you come here, they're the ones that sit in the office or attack you outside, or when you're walking by their place, they come out, they threaten you. So that's the atmosphere. So then when I get a call that Duggar and Stables and supposedly Schoen even are in Boardwalk, I don't like that, because that's also a bar. That's also a highly political environment. And it's also a very discriminating environment. So.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Yes, Vice Mayor.
I do want to make a comment for the record. I, as well as everyone in this dais, works for the residents of Boynton Beach, not for the residents of any other city. And yes, you're allowed to public comment, but I report to the residents of Boynton Beach. And that is what I wanted to say.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on. Where are we?
Anybody on the?
So we're now going to go online. All right, Mani, 1 second.
Mr. Mayor, we have two hands
Are you
raised.
making a threat? Excuse me 1 second. Are you making me a threat? You're pointing fingers at me right now and you're threatening me. Is that what you're doing right now? Okay, please calm down. You're pointing fingers in the camera. I can see it. There's evidence of that. Yes, sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will not have this back and forth. Ladies and gentlemen, calm down. Pause for 1 moment. Let's take a breather for 1 moment.
You pointed your finger at me and you said, I got you. And it is in fact recorded. If you would like for me to play it back at some point, I can do that, no problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have asked you once not to keep screaming. All right, that's it. Officers, I'm going to ask
No
you to
touching,
move
please.
these individuals
No touching, please.
from these chambers. We will not have these continued screaming in these chambers. Stop yelling, sir. No one is yelling. Ladies, officers, please remove the individuals.
There's no need for that.
I have given the direction to remove these individuals from these chambers.
Really? This can't get shit like this? Seriously? And I don't really call. It's some bullshit, but we'll get this recorded. Hey, my director from the NAACP, do you see what's going on here? God be the glory. I think y'all not, you don't put your hands on it. You're too close to one thing, but just upset us now. We'll get back. Right. Man, you better stop it. I just pointed mine. Goddamn it, this ain't gonna happen. See your ass somewhere out here. I wanted to go to the damn phone when I first come to the damn, but I was down and humble with you all tonight. Thought y'all would run this show like you supposed to. So the truth. Oh, my shit.
All right, we're going to keep going. Yes, thank you. Mani, we're now going to proceed to online public comment speakers. Mani, how many people do we have online?
Mr. Mayor, we had two people online. Unfortunately, one seems to have dropped, may have lost their net connection, so I will go on with the first person and give them time to hopefully reconnect with us.
All right, thank you for that. And for the virtual speakers, I will let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining on the clock.
Okay, our first speaker is Ramona Young. Ramona, you've been unmuted, but you're self-muted. Please click the microphone next to your name. Thank you.
Good evening, and please begin when you're ready.
Ramona Young, 101 South Federal Highway. I would like the commission to consider a cap on rental apartments. It is getting to be outrageous. I sent you information. Mr. Mayor, I did not hear back from you. The second thing that I have is I once before asked about police officers to check the speeders and the muffler sounds on Federal Highway at 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. It's ridiculous. It's inconsiderate. And I'd like to have officers here to give out tickets because there is a noise ordinance, I do believe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Mani, did that second person come back?
Unfortunately, no, sir.
All right, thank you. I believe that concludes all of public comments. Thank you, everybody.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry, we have something in writing. Mr. Stables, please read it into record.
Yes, we received a written response, and I'm just going to read it. The speaker's name is Amber from Guaco Go. Hi there, and thank you for reading my letter while I'm not able to attend in person or virtually today. My name is Amber, and I am one of the owners of Guaco Go. I want to address 3 separate issues that I hope you will take into consideration. Number 1, Pirate Fest. It feels like a huge oversight to have not budgeted for this event when it brings so much money into our developing city. We as a downtown local brick and mortar restaurant and as a food vendor will be missing out on tremendous earnings this weekend. We have worked at Pirate Fest since 2017 as a food vendor. That is where we met Bonnie from the CRA and was convinced to open our first location in Boynton Beach. Mercedes has turned this into a top-notch event, and we know because we do events full-time throughout South Florida. I need you to know that your local businesses will be missing out on tens of thousands of dollars. This is such a huge oversight and could have been avoided. I hope that you take into consideration how much we are losing and how much we have been let down. So much money was spent on a city hall and an amphitheater. There is no better event to put it to use. Please, and I beg to not miss the 2023 date, and please make sure Mercedes is working with whoever is in charge. I fear that we can't lose what she's created, and missing 2022 is a huge mistake. Number 2, the homeless vagrancy problem is becoming too big to be ignored. I don't know if more halfway houses are opening up close by or what is happening. About a month ago, a young employee walked in on a vagrant pleasuring himself in our bathroom. I have vagrants coming into our store and scaring customers with small children. We find needles in our trash and poop on our walls. It's getting rather scary and something needs to be done to address it. I have no issues personally with smoke shops and halfway houses, but what do you want downtown Boynton Beach to look like in 5 years, 10 years? I know the other local businesses are suffering majorly from this problem as well, especially the higher end places with more outdoor seating. I think this issue should be addressed right away, no time to rest. Number 3, please don't forget to promote your downtown businesses as a destination. We and I know this is a collective feeling, feel forgotten. We see how much money was put into a city hall building, and we see the development on Woolbright, and the Woolbright area is awesome, but we on Ocean Avenue do not feel the love. It would be great if the city would promote downtown Boynton Beach as a destination for shopping, dining, boating, etc. We have an awesome marina. This could be a destination location. We were promised a lot to be the first ones in the downtown area, and we see little improvements and lack of vision. One of the local business owners has been asking for streetlights so that people can see her restaurant clearly and to help keep vagrants away, and still has not gotten any help. But we have a great city hall building, right? We see comments all over social media talking about how downtown Boynton Beach stinks. If your downtown business don't survive, what will people think of Boynton Beach?
Thank you, Mr. Stables. Were there any other written statements that need to be read? That was it. All right. Now that is the true conclusion of public comments. We're now going to move on to.
Mayor?
Yes.
I do have one comment I'd like to make.
Sure.
Is Gary Dunbar in here tonight?
No,
Okay.
he's not present.
Not tonight. But I'd just like to say to those who were speaking about the speed bumps, Gary Dunbar has a master plan for Boynton. He's implementing it in various sections of the city. He's done several in my district too, I know for a fact. And so I would advise you to call the city, sit down and talk with Gary Dunbar, and I'm sure that he will be more than willing to work with you on some type of resolution when it comes to speed bumps and other traffic situations that you may have. Thank you.
Just real quick, 1 second. Can we let
Just wanted to
Commissioner Mack,
mention
respond.
that Mario is in the back. He's the Public Works Director. If anyone in the audience
yep.
needs to speak with him, they can speak with Mario in the back.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Commissioner Hay, I just want to thank you so much for that comment, because I think speed bumps are very important. I've been battling it as soon as I got elected. In my neighborhood, it's been taking years and years and years to get these speed bumps. And so I just hope that, I think it's Northwest 12th Ave and Northwest 13th Ave. I hope you guys don't have to wait years and years. So let's put this on the forefront. Mr. Guzman, thank you very much for expediting this. Let's do it for these streets also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from my colleagues? All right, let's move on to administrative. Item 5A, ratify the selection of Naomi Cobb as board chair and Josemond as vice chair of the CRA advisory board. If there's no further discussion, may I have a motion to ratify those selections as
So
chair as
moved.
vice mayor? We have a motion. Who was the
Second.
second? Okay, Vice Mayor Cruz was the. All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. Congratulations to Naomi Cobb and Josemond. 5B, appoint eligible members of the community to serve in vacant positions on city advisory boards. Let me just pull up the list. I see that we have no applicants for the Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals. We have no applicants for Historic Resources Preservation Board, and we have and we do have one applicant for the Library Board. Let's address that first. Commissioner Turkin, that is your appointment, and we have one applicant for that.
I'll appoint Danny Farrell.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor of appointing Danny Farrell for the regular position on the Library Board say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes. Congratulations. The other board is the Education and Youth Advisory Board. We have several applicants, all seeking the alternate position, and the alternate position is Commissioner Hay's appointment. Commissioner Hay, would you like to make an appointment this evening?
Yes, I would. First of all, I'm happy to see so many.
Yes.
I wish that was across the board, but I do appoint Katie Houseworth,
Okay.
whatever.
All right. We have a motion for Katie Houseworth.
Second.
And we have a second. All those in favor of appointing Katie Houseworth to the Education Youth Advisory Board for the alternate position say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. Congratulations. That concludes appointments on advisory boards. What's the next item? We're now moving on to consent agenda. We have a lengthy consent agenda. Are there any items that my colleagues would like to pull? Let me know. All right, I'll wait a moment.
No, just want to comment on 7A. Thank you, Mario and Gary, for getting this done. And I just want to reiterate what I just said. Let's make sure that, we can expedite this for 12th and 13th Avenue.
Yes, I would like to go ahead and pull 6K,
6K.
which is the collective bargaining agreement with SEIU.
All right. Are there any other requests, any items to pull? All right, seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second from Commissioner Kelly. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The remainder of consent agenda has been approved. We're now going to focus on item 6K, proposed resolution number R22-122. Approve and ratify the reopen wage article of the SEIU Blue and White Collar Collective Bargaining Agreements. I see that Ms. Olsbury, our HR director, is at the podium. Thank you so much, and please introduce the item.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Julie Oldbury. I'm the Director of Human Resources and Risk Management. The item before you tonight is to ratify the reopened articles from our SEIU Blue and White Collar unions. And so they had the articles of wages and insurance, just wages actually, opened this time. So we were able to negotiate with them. Just for the public, in case they don't know, our SEIU white and blue collar employees are predominantly our frontline and field workers. They're the ones that are really the face of the city, that are out there day in and day out doing, the hard work to keep operations going. So we were very pleased that we were able to negotiate with them an 8% across the board increase. And we were also able to do a shift differential for our communications dispatchers, which will be very helpful for them when they're working those overnight shifts, taking those 24/7 calls. So that's going to be great for them. And also for our ocean rescue lifeguards who also have certifications as emergency medical technicians, we're going to be able to offer them an incentive pay for achieving that certification. So we're very happy with this. I want to thank the SEIU bargaining team. They came very prepared and made it for productive sessions. And I'd also like to, thank Mara and Jim who were with me at the table as well. So it was a great session and very happy. And I'm very hopeful that the commission will also ratify this. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Cruz, you asked to pull this item, so let's begin with you.
Yes, I did. Just wanted to pull it because it's important for us to understand that we need to support our hardest working employees. And right now we're giving an 8% raise. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that's an update to the collective bargaining agreement previously approved. So just really happy to see that. And I just want to thank all of our employees that work under SEIU. I actually see them personally when they come pick up my trash sometimes, and just highly appreciate it. They do fantastic work and always with a smile on their face.
Great to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Commissioner Turkin?
So this is different from general employees, correct?
That's correct.
What wage did we give? And this is awesome. Let me preface with that. This is awesome. What wage increase did we give for our general employees?
I believe in the budget, we have budgeted 6%.
6%?
For general, correct.
So what can we do to make that fair? Because if we're giving SEIU 8% and general employees 6%, taking all the factors, the elephant in the room, inflation, right? What can we do to, I don't know if we can continue with that 6% and 8% and maybe add a 2%, 6 months after the start of the fiscal year. Is that something fiscally possible? I just think that if we're going to be fair, I think we need to be fair.
I would defer that to the finance director to
Can I
speak to.
say something real quick?
Yes, Vice Mayor Cruz.
I share your sentiment, Commissioner. That's actually a conversation I had with Julie, because I do think we need to have the same across the board. However, when I had my conversation with Julie, she briefly explained that our SEIU employees oftentimes are the lowest paid in the city. Some of them weren't even given minimum wage at some point, $15 an hour. They weren't even getting that. So if we do 8% from that standpoint versus what people, for example, at City Hall make, which is more professional, different types of employment categories, their starting salaries are a lot higher. So at the end of the day, kind of balances out. But it is definitely something that I spoke to Julie about during our agenda prep. And they are some of our lowest paid employees. So, and I see them working, day in and day out, especially in 100-degree weather outside, especially whether it rains or not, they still have to be outside working. So I wholeheartedly believe, and I would encourage our commission to support this as they really, really, really deserve it. Thank you.
Excellent.
I don't think I want to go less than 8%. I think we're looking at 6 and 8. I don't want to go down. That's not my, I'm sorry if you got that perception, but that's not what I'm saying here.
I see that our city manager would like to speak. Go ahead, Mr. Staples.
To speak to what Vice Mayor Cruz said, so giving the same percentage doesn't necessarily become equitable.
Sure.
To reinforce what she said, the general employees through the budget process got a 6%.
Right.
We approved a budget. For us to go back and try and do something now would create chaos for the budget. Correct.
Okay.
So that doesn't mean we can't consider things in the future, but I will say that equitability is not necessarily the same, if that makes sense. And to speak to Vice Mayor Cruz's comment, the lower paid employee is receiving a higher percentage, but the calculation is
it's not going to be the same. I know how math works.
So that's the challenge for us, and I don't need the finance director to explain that for us. We can pretty much say that we're in a position where we gave equitable raises across the board to all bargaining units and all general employees, in my opinion, of what was done through the budgetary process by you all. So we're at a place where we'd love to be able to give more, but we've got a balanced budget. If we had to go backwards, that would cause chaos. So.
Got it. Thank you for that clarification, Chief.
Any other comments? All right, I just want to say thank you to our team for negotiating with SEIU. I am happy to see this, and I'm glad that we're taking care of our people at all levels. That's very important to me. And Vice Mayor Cruz has already said it. I mean, these are the people working in these very tough conditions. I don't need to repeat all of that, but thank you again. All right, any other final comments?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second? There is a second. All those in favor of passing resolution R22-122, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Olsberry. We're now moving on to item 7. This is consent bids and purchases over $100,000. Also another lengthy list. Colleagues, would you like to pull any items from this section of the agenda?
Yes, Mayor. I would like to pull item 7D, as in David.
7D. Is there anything else from my colleagues? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the remainder of consent bids and purchases over 100,000?
So move.
So moved.
We have a motion and a
Second.
second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. The motion passes. Thank you. Now back to 7D, approve task order 103 with Atlantic Southern Paving and Seal Coating in the amount of $163,038 in accordance with the asphalt and sidewalk rehabilitation contract, annual contract, bid number PWE 22-008, awarded by City Commission on April 5th, 2022 to provide asphalt and sidewalk rehabilitation to Southwest 18th Street in Boynton, Leisureville. Mr. Guzman, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, my esteemed colleagues, members of the public. My name is Mario Guzman, Director of Public Works. That is to pave and also put traffic calming devices, i.e. speed humps, on Southwest 18th from Woolbright to Southwest 23rd. It's about 3,000 feet, which is a little bit over half a mile of paving. So that's paving and also including traffic calming devices, i.e. speed bumps. And that's for the Leisureville area.
Thank you, Mario.
That was going to get done last year, but when it comes to paving and speed bumps, if it was up to us, we'd like to put them as needed, but there's some coordination. And particularly with this one, there was some utility projects going on, so that's what delayed it. So typically we look at utility projects, make sure we're not installing some to have it taken out again. We look at DOT projects, county projects, and that coordination. So.
Thank you so much. I wanted to pull this item as it is located in my district. So thank you so much. Really happy to see that. And I know we've had a little talk earlier about issues with traffic calming, speed bumps, stop signs, and that sort. I just wanted to show the public all the good work that staff is doing. And, we definitely need to take care of 13th Street as well and everything that was mentioned today. So we're going to take that into consideration with staff and continue to work on that. But just thank you, to your team, and to all members of staff that made this possible.
Very, very welcome. All right.
Thank you. And Mario, before you go, are there any other questions or comments from my colleagues while he's up here on the podium?
Okay. No, just thank you.
Yeah.
And thanks for coming out to the public too.
Welcome. That was awesome.
I think that's something we should do more often.
Agreed.
Are you
referring to the Forest Park event?
Yes.
Excellent.
And thank you, Chief Stables as well. I think it's good when the residents can see and talk to not just us, but the staff, because ultimately you guys have the right answers, and it helps clarify some things. So I appreciate y'all again.
And it was a collaborative effort. I learned a lot from the residents as well. And they saw some of the struggles we have when it comes to, doing some devices.
And thanks for being patient with me. And I put a lot of pressure on you.
Worries. We're good.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Keep doing what you're doing.
All right. Seeing that we've concluded discussion, may I have a motion to approve 7D?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. That concludes consent bids and purchases over $100,000. We're now going to move on to unfinished business. And as we have previously discussed, I don't recall which meeting, but maybe 2 or 3 meetings ago, I brought up the idea that we should consider outside counsel as third party to address matters pertaining to Town Square. And from that conversation, it appeared that we had a consensus and we had majority support. However, we did not give clear direction in that evening as to who that third party would be. And so this evening I asked to bring back this item because I would like to make a recommendation. And that recommendation to deal with legal matters pertaining to Town Square to serve as co-counsel would be Catherine Rosmell and Tara Dewey of Lewis, Longman, and Walker. These two phenomenal individuals currently serve as our CRA counsel. I think they're doing a phenomenal job. Their work specializes in development and development agreements. And so I think it's a fantastic idea to bring in individuals who are working in that field. So that is my recommendation, but I would like to hear from my colleagues, and I see that both individuals are in the chambers. So if they would like to say anything, you're welcome to do so, but I'd like to hear from my colleagues as well. Would you two like to come up and say a few words?
Sorry, I give you, we can share. Good evening, Tara Dewey of the law firm of Lewis, Longman and Walker. I've not been on this side of your new podium, so it's a new experience for me. As you said, we very much enjoy the work that we do for the Boynton Beach Community Development Agency. This particular, as described to us, is a matter that is firmly within our wheelhouse and abilities. We'd be more than happy to provide the services. If you have any questions, Catherine is my co-counsel for the CRA and would serve in the same role for this. So if you have any questions, we are here to answer any of them.
Okay. Do we have any questions or comments from my colleagues? Commissioner Kelly?
Yes, my only question, there are some issues that come up in Town Square that are both city and may breach that city and CRA. You know, there may be an agreement that kind of touches on both a city issue and a CRA issue. And so I wonder, how would we handle any conflict, I guess?
So this wouldn't be a direct conflict. What would occur is we would notify the CRA and have them execute a waiver, understanding that we would do this particular work with respect to you. In the contract we would have with you, there would be a similar waiver that notifies you that we represent the CRA. And to the extent a conflict did arise, we would have to step away from the issue for both sides if that arose. But as I understand it, I don't think that a direct conflict of that nature would arise. So I don't believe that would be an issue. But we would have it in the contracts to address that, and we would have the ethical obligation to step away if that arose.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
No, I was a little worried when you said you were going to make a recommendation. Then I see you guys in the audience. Now I know why. I feel good about this.
Good. These are individuals we already know and we are working with already. And I thought that would bring a great sense of comfort and confidence.
And trust.
And trust, which is absolutely key. And just to be clear to my colleagues, my request here is for these two fine individuals to serve as co-counsel along with our city attorney, again, to deal with matters pertaining to Town Square so we can move that issue forward.
And I just want to say on the record, I know the attorneys very well. We'll work well together and look forward to working with them. I know it's an important project for the city.
Excellent. All right. And do we need a formal motion for the city attorney?
What I'd ask is just a motion to authorize the retention of the law firm for the Town Square project, and that we can go ahead and sign a retainer agreement that's acceptable to the city attorney's office and the city manager.
Okay.
That way we can get them on board. We don't have to bring it back in 2 weeks.
So may I have a motion to, what was the word?
Authorize
the retention of Catherine Rosmell and Tara Dewey of Lewis, Longman and Walker to serve as co-counsel to handle matters pertaining to Town Square and to bring back an agreement.
If we could have the authority to authorize the retainer, they're pretty standard.
And to give the city attorney the authority.
Right.
Okay.
That way we can get them on board because it's a fast moving train.
Excellent. All right. May I have that motion?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. Congratulations to both of you. I look forward to working with both of you. Thank you. We are moving on to new business, and this is 11A. And I was informed by the city manager that the presenter for this item is not available. May I have a motion to, and just for clarification, city manager, this is to table the item. I'm not sure when exactly.
Table it to a date in the future, but not date certain.
Okay.
Motion to table item 11A to the first meeting in October or
Future
any
date.
future date.
Sure. We have a motion and a second to table item 11A to a future date. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those again say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to item 11B. As requested by Mayor Pinsurga, staff will be presenting results of research on the feasibility of solar panels on city buildings. I can't tell you how excited I am. Thank you so much, Ms. Harvey. I know this is important to so many people, and I have seen, of course, you've already uploaded your presentation, but I want to hear it from you. We've got some exciting results to see.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Rebecca Harvey, Sustainability and Resilience Administrator. Had to write down my title so I didn't forget. Changed recently. As requested by the mayor, I've worked with staff in various departments to research the feasibility of solar panels for our city facilities, and I'm very happy to present to you tonight. Manny, you can go to the next slide, please. Solar energy aligns with city plans, most notably our climate action plan, updated in 2020, and which identifies solar as one of the highest impact actions we can take to achieve our greenhouse gas reduction targets of 50% by 2035 and net zero by 2050. In addition, the updated strategic plan specifies the use of renewable energy as one of the specific objectives within the strategic goal of environmental sustainability. Next slide. The city has made some progress already on solar energy. We are a designated SolSmart Gold community, indicating that we have taken the steps to reduce the soft costs of solar for our residents and businesses. Back in 2010, with the first round of the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program, the city installed a 7 kilowatt solar PV photovoltaic, I always have a hard time saying that word, solar PV system and a solar hot water system at the Fire Station 5, and that system is still operational. The city also participated in FPL's Solar Now program in 2018, which installed the solar parking canopies at Oceanfront Park and Barrier Free Park, and those solar trees at Oceanfront Park as well. That was an FPL program. Our Energy Edge rebate program provides $1,500 in rebates for solar to eligible homeowners and small businesses. And very recently, we are partnering, actually upcoming, on the third Palm Beach County Solar Co-op. It's launching next week on September 14th. The city has been a marketing partner on the co-ops 2 times in the past, and the website is there. Everyone can learn more about that very soon. It's a buying co-op that reduces the cost of solar for homeowners. Next slide. This slide summarizes the many benefits of solar energy, not only for meeting our climate mitigation goals, positions the city as a leader in the clean energy transition, and of course the most tangible benefit is the savings on electric bills, and I will show you numbers on that in just a minute. There is federal funding available, and the tax credits are now available with the recent passage of the Inflation Reduction Act. Municipalities were not previously eligible for the income tax credit for solar energy, but will be once that legislation is taking effect. And the cost of solar panels have fallen with, somewhat of an increase due to inflation. They are now falling again, making the ROI more attractive. And then levelized cost of energy, kind of a new term that I've learned in my research here, is that by purchasing solar now, you're essentially fixing the amount you pay for energy going forward as our energy costs are rising. So we're kind of fixing and hedging against the rising utility costs in the future. And then finally, it's a proven technology. It's been around a long time and it is low maintenance. Next slide. So very briefly, this table shows that the city has experienced a significant increase in the rate we pay to FPL for electricity, totaling about 30% over the last 2 years. Next slide.
1 second, Ms. Harvey. Could you
Sure.
explain some of these numbers? I see that very last row, the minimum, and over the 2 years to 51.7% impact. Could you just help elaborate on, help me understand that?
Yeah, I may call one of my coworkers for that because I have not fully wrapped my head around that. What I do understand is there are the base demand and base energy charges are 3 different charges on the FPL bill. Could I get someone from finance? Jeff, would you? Jeff Kornblum has worked with me on this, and every time he's explained it to me, I don't totally get it myself. So
When you see these percents and increases, I mean, it is staggering.
Hi, good evening. Jeff Kornblum, Facilities, Utilities Finance. The minimum is the base charge that they charge just when you turn the service on and that you start to use kilowatt hours. So that's the minimum that they charge in regards to the.
Just for turning on the power?
Correct.
Okay.
And you could see the percentage.
Could you move the mic closer, please?
Sure, you could see the percentage of 1.15%. It's the put the key in the door charge. And basically what they're doing is they're increasing that substantially over the past 3 years so that they get some kind of a return on that. It's 1%.
I don't understand the last thing you said. 1% of what? What is 1%?
The historic usage, the invoiced amount over the past 3 years, it represents 1.15% of the total cost of our invoices.
Okay. Okay. Let's keep going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Okay, so we don't have time this evening to talk deeply about the technical aspects of solar. I would refer you, if you want to get more deep in the technical aspects, to Solar United Neighbors. They have a great Solar 101 website video, a video, and the website on that was on the earlier slide about the solar co-op. But here I just want to note that we would be looking at a grid-tied system as opposed to an off-grid system at this time. Grid-tied meaning in the photo on the left that the solar panel array is connected to the building as well as to FPL's electric grid through the electricity meter. FPL provides net metering, which means that the owner is credited for any excess electricity produced by the solar panels, but only up to the total and no more than what the building itself can use. In Florida, we're not allowed to overproduce and sell electricity back to the grid. But you're net metered, for example, during the day when there's a lot of sun and your building is producing, and if you're not there, you're getting credits for what is being produced into the grid. The picture in the middle shows an off-grid system, which includes the batteries that would enable the owner to power the building when the electric grid is down. This option at this time is still very expensive. Batteries, the costs are coming down. They're still pretty expensive. So it's something that the city could consider more in the future as the costs decrease. And I'd be happy to look at it more if that's something you would like to. I also wanted to highlight the different types of solar arrays in the pictures, including rooftop, ground mounted, solar parking canopies or carports, and there are even floating solar arrays that some cities in Florida are implementing. Next slide. So I've discussed with our Public Works facilities staff the factors that need to be considered in selecting suitable sites for solar. And these include the roof type. There are different issues and costs associated with flat roofs versus sloped roofs. Flat roofs can actually be less expensive. It's easier for the workers to move around. But there might be an additional cost. For example, if you have to mount the panels in a way to angle them on the flat roof. So it might, level out a bit, but the type of membrane or covering, single ply membranes might require different mounting systems so they don't break the membrane versus a built up roof or a modified bitumen roof, which is a type of built up multiple membrane roof, which could handle the standard penetrations into it. And then metal roofs, ceramic tile roofs are also feasible for solar, but they might have different costs involved with them. Roof age is very important since the warranted life of a PV system is typically 25 years. You want the roof to be as new as possible, less than 10 years, or ideally less than 5 years old. Metal roofs, it could be an older roof because the lifespan on a metal roof is 40 plus years. And I'll talk more about warranty a bit on a later slide. The available roof area or ground area, if you're considering a ground mount system, will tell you what solar size your site can support, and you need to, of course, know the building's energy demand. Hurricane and wind load requirements. Florida Building Code requires that solar panels meet the local wind speed requirements, so that's covered. It's just if you're building on an EOC, an Emergency Operations Center, something with a higher wind rating, then you would need to plan accordingly. And finally, you would need to do a structural and electrical analysis of the building before, which should be included in the contract with the solar installer. Next slide, please. So staff identified the Ezel Hester Community Center as a suitable location for a rooftop solar array because of the roof type. It's a modified bitumen roof, which is strong and can accommodate the standard anchoring system. And the roof age, it was just built a couple of years ago in 2020. The Hester Center facility includes 3 meters, so it has 3 separate FPL bills. The building, that's the building, it's also the concession stand and the ball field. And the building counts for about 75% of the overall site electricity usage. And we received an independent cost estimate from Advanced Green Technologies, AGT, which is also advanced roofing. The city has hired them for some roofing projects in the past, so we have a relationship with them. They gave us a cost estimate for a 247 panel rooftop system, which is shown in the image there, 101 kilowatt size at a cost of $255,000. This was the amount that you've already seen because it was in the proposal for the CDBG funds and was approved by this body last commission meeting, or last one in August.
Ms. Harvey, could I ask
Yes.
you or whoever is controlling the computer to zoom into that picture in the bottom right, the layout of the panels along Hester? I see that there's still some other areas that are not covered. Is there any particular reason why those areas were not used? Do they have a different roof or some sort of maybe budget?
There are
I'm just trying to understand the
facilities
the
there.
thought
There
process.
seem to be air conditioners, and that's a great question. Actually, I haven't asked the contractor specifically. I
There
know
are some
that.
trees there as well that are in front of that building.
Oh, that could be it.
taxi
I
as
see.
well.
Yeah,
I
that
see
could
that.
be it. Thank you.
That could
Andrew.
affect the
Yeah.
output.
Okay.
Good point. Thank you.
And you do need room around the outside for
Walking around.
workers.
Right.
Yeah. But I can double check that, but that makes
No,
sense.
I'm just curious.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So in addition, Manny, if you can zoom back out on the bottom of this slide, we also asked for a ballpark estimate for also doing a solar parking canopy, just for information. A solar parking canopy, the cost per watt is higher because you are also building the structure instead of just putting the panels on the roof. So it's about $4 per watt as opposed to I think it was $2.35 per watt for the, or $2.55, I think, per watt for the panels themselves. But a solar parking canopy that would cover 24 parking spaces would cost about $400,000. So you can move to the next slide, please. Okay, so this details the financial metrics for the Hester Center. Assuming we purchased it outright, which we can do with the CDBG funds. Overall, the facility consumes 1,000 kilowatt hours a year for an annual cost of $55,000 currently. The estimate used here was 4% energy cost escalation rate. That's very conservative. We've seen that just in the last 2 years, they went
Just
up
one
much
moment.
more.
Just to be clear, we're spending 55,000 just in electricity bills for that building?
For the whole site, for
the
the
whole
ball
site.
field and everything.
Oh,
That's
okay.
total. Yes.
Wow, okay. All right,
Mhm.
thank you.
Yes, it's electricity is expensive. Okay, so if we look just at the left column, there's a lot in this table. So let's just look at the one that says rooftop system. That's the cost estimate, the detailed cost estimate that we have in hand. And it's again the 101 kilowatt system that would cost about $255,000. This would offset 29% of the overall site's electricity usage. If we looked at just the building itself, it would be higher than that. I don't know exactly how much because of the complicated different types of rates, and we looked at that a little, but since the building is 75% of the overall footprint, it would probably be, 30 to 40% of just the building's usage. The first year savings would be $12,300, and the savings over the lifetime of the panels would be $456,000. That's the gross savings. You subtract then the 255, so for a net of about 200,000 profit over 25 years. And the payback time on this system would be 16 years, but if we're using federal grant funds, then essentially we're seeing the benefits right away. And the return on investment over 25 years is 78%, and the internal rate of return is 4%. Any questions on those numbers?
Just a question about like the structural aspect of it. So it's a flat roof, correct?
Yes.
So when it gets to that point to where we have to change the roof, what's the cost to, because obviously we gotta remove the panels, put them back on. What's that cost?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit more about that
Okay.
on one of the next slides because that did come into play with Fire Station 5, as we know. To my understanding, this particular roof on Hester Center would not need to be replaced in the near term. Andrew maybe can pipe in on this. The roof on the fire station, which is an EOC Category 5 rated building, is a concrete. So I have it on the next slide.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
I'll talk more about that in a sec. But the rest of this table just adds in if we also did a parking canopy and what the total offset would be. So just to see we could scale up with that and achieve more than half of the building's energy use through solar through those two installations. You can go on to the next slide, please, Manny. So yes, this one here, we did some very preliminary assessments of some other city facilities to give an idea of how we might scale up the benefits of solar. These would all need to be looked at more carefully, of course, but just the 5 buildings here plus the Hester Center could give us 1 megawatt of solar energy. And these are just the relatively recent roofs that we have that might be candidates to do in the nearer term. So the Fire Station 5 is on there. It has concrete deck sealed roof. So that's a particular type of roof that needs to be, to my knowledge, resealed every 7 years, 5 or 7 years. Most flat roofs, that's not the case. Does that help answer your question?
Kind of. I'm just thinking, it's financially, it needs to make sense, and it looks like it's making sense. I want to know what that cost is going to be to take the panels off, put them back on, how often we have to do it, because I think that's important to incorporate to get an accurate amount of what our savings is.
Right.
This is awesome. This is great. I think we're heading in the right direction. I just want to make sure that we're accounting for every little penny.
Absolutely. So that's why it's important to talk interdepartmentally as we have been, and I'm relying on the expertise of my colleagues in facilities. And like I said, to my understanding at this point, if we aligned it with a roof that's very new and the system itself has 25 years, we should be good for the lifetime of the system. for the, the roofs that we're looking at.
I see Mr. Guzman.
Hi.
You want to add something to that?
Yeah, my favorite spot, Mario Guzman, Director of Public Works. Yeah, we work in conjunction. What we would look at we look at doing roofs. They typically have a 20-year life cycle. So if it's getting to that 18th year, we're not going to put a roof on that one. So we work in conjunction. So that's how we categorize priority-wise when it comes to roofs.
So bottom line is pick the newer roofs, so you minimize having the need to do all that extra stuff.
Correct.
Okay.
And we want also ensure that it's not going to avoid any kind of warranties when installing those. So. All right, questions?
All right.
Okay. Next slide, please, Manny. We also provided some greenhouse gas calculations just to create a visualization of the climate benefits. So for example, the Hester rooftop plus parking canopy project would be equivalent to removing 44 cars from the road for 1 year and planting almost 3,400 tree seedlings for 10 years. Next slide. So one of the great things about solar is it's relatively little maintenance. The estimate that was received for the Hester Center would be $2,000 per year for one annual visit, which is typically what they do in these agreements that covers everything you see listed here. I've looked also at some other cities, their maintenance agreements and the costs were similar. On the next slide, your solar contract is going to include guarantees and warranty on the panels themselves, as well as on the inverters, other materials, and labor. And in addition, you want to make sure you align the solar warranty with the roof warranty, again, aligning the ages of the two as much as you can, and asking for a letter of assurance from the roof manufacturer, like the example here, stating that the roof warranty will remain intact after the solar is installed. And it's also possible to select a roofing contractor sometimes for the solar installation to align the two warranties and maybe provide more confidence. Next slide, solar finances. Yes.
Question.
Sure.
Are the panels, if they get broken, is it covered under this?
Yes, I believe it.
Like we have hurricanes around here, like every now and then, every 20, 40 years, right? But it's, but the broken panels would be covered under this?
Yes. Manny, can you go back to the last slide, please? I believe it says a limited guarantee on the solar panels. So there is some fine print there. I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but I could look at it.
Like two of us.
Maybe if we can get legal to look at that.
Yeah.
Typically when it's a hurricane or some kind of event like that, those are not covered under the warranty. That would be something insurance would pay for that we have an insurance coverage for or a claim.
Okay.
It's good.
Good to know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for that question.
That makes sense. Right. Okay. Next slide. The solar finances are changing with the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act last month. Owner direct purchase is now the best financial option because the owner, as a municipality, would now be eligible for a 30% tax credit. Previously, when municipalities were not eligible for the tax credit, municipalities have looked at these other options. Power purchase agreements are not legal in Florida. That's where the customer hosts the system and buys the power from a third party, because in Florida, only utilities are legally allowed to sell power. The PPA is not allowed, but an equipment lease would be allowed, or an energy services agreement, which is when the equipment is installed and the customer pays a fixed monthly amount. So currently, however, the good news is buying it outright is actually the best financial option. Simplifies things, especially when there are grant funds. And on the final slide, I will present some options to consider for federal funding. The top one listed is the CDBG Annual Action Plan for fiscal year 2021, which includes, as we've talked about, the $255,000 for the Hester Center rooftop solar. And we can go out to bid for this once the 30-day comment period has passed. So I'm going to start working on that bid. And then other potential upcoming funding sources include the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant. That is part of the IIJ, the Infrastructure Act. It's another round of that. That was the program that funded our first solar installation 10 years ago. Good news is solar is much, much cheaper than it was 12 years ago. So we can get a bigger system for a smaller amount. The preliminary estimates I've seen for what our city would be allocated are about $151,000 for that program. There are also ARPA funds. Solar is an allowable
Harvey?
use of that.
Ms. Harvey, I have a
Yes.
question about the EECBG.
Mhm.
There's a lot of acronyms there. Is that funding that the city would get to start the program, or funding the city would get to maintain and continue? How does that work?
The EECBG, the way they're rolling it out this time is very broad. It can be used for direct retrofits of buildings for energy efficiency. It could be used for purchase of solar panels, or it could be used to create rebates or revolving loan funds for the community. It can also be used for electric transportation, EV chargers or fleet vehicles. There's a lot of uses of it. So that's a discussion we need to have.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear there's flexibility in that.
Mhm. Okay. And as I was saying, there's ARPA funds are an option, and there will most likely be future grant programs coming from some of these federal bills that have passed. And then again, the Inflation Reduction Act, I've already talked about that, which will provide a 30% investment tax credit for solar systems less than 1 megawatt in size. And we looked at the Hester Center numbers, and that benefit would reduce the payback by 4 years for that. And I've also done a little research, and while they're still analyzing it, currently there does not seem to be any prohibition against receiving the ITC, even if you're using federal funds to purchase the system. And that is the end of my information that I have for you, and I will open it up for any comments or questions.
Well, thank you so much for that presentation. I'd like to hear from my colleagues first. Is there anything from my colleagues? I know we asked questions along the way. Who would like to begin? All right, seeing no other questions.
Just thank you for your presentation.
thank
and
you.
we definitely want to move in that direction.
So Ms. Harvey, I guess my only question now is, what would the timeline look like moving forward? What are the next steps?
The next steps, I actually jotted down while I was sitting there. The next steps. I'm ready to get started on the bid for the Hester Center, and I think that's great that you all have already approved that. It can be a demonstration project, or a way of getting our feet wet and learning on our recreation center. We've talked with recreation department; they're excited about it, and we could do some education for the community with a kiosk, and do a little promotion of that. At the same time, these other funding sources are coming down, so I think we need to get together soon and look at that EECBG or some of the other funding and make a plan for how we want to prioritize those funds. And I would also recommend doing a comprehensive study of all of our buildings and sites, including ground area that might be on some of our wastewater treatment plant or other places where we might have room for ground mount systems, and see what the overall potential is in some more detail. And then we can make a plan for prioritizing it. How does that sound?
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Mayor?
Yes,
Sorry, I
Commissioner
just had one.
Kelly.
I like the idea of the trees, and I know we have them at Oceanfront. And I like the idea of maybe looking into some of the solar trees going into more of our parks. Even our city hall, the parks here at City Hall, there's not a lot of shade. There's one big tree, but we could maximize that, the heat, by having, looking at those solar trees also in some places that maybe we couldn't put a huge canopy, but something that we could utilize and give back. So I love this. I think this is awesome. It's a great place to start. And And I just look forward to continuing to bring solar more and more into the city. So thank you.
Thank you for that comment. And it made me think of one other thing. I'm talking to other jurisdictions, and Broward County is doing a lot with solar. And they are working on a project now of a canopy over their outdoor basketball courts and concrete basketball courts to shade the players. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Nice.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
So we're going to follow that one and see how it goes for them.
Good.
There's lots of options.
Yes. The sky is the limit.
All right, I see the hand up from Mr. Mack.
Andrew Mack, Assistant City Manager. I just wanted to thank Rebecca. This project she's been working on for quite a while, and she had to convince a lot of staff that this would work and wouldn't have issues with roofs and leaks. And she did all that hard work and diligence, and she did. She won us all over, and I'm very proud of the work she's done on this project, and I thank her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for
Commissioner
your
Hay?
support.
I just think a lot of eyes are going to be looking at this project. You know, even myself, you know, I have a pushback with putting panels in my roof. I just don't, I can't envision a hole in my roof, you know, with I think about leaks, and that's the big thing but I'm sure that once I get educated and look at what you guys are going to do with Isa Hessel Center, I may be convinced. Okay, but
one of the
keep,
goals.
job well done, job well done.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
just keep
Thank you all.
moving it forward.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Ms. Harvey. We are now going to move on to the next item, which is 11D. This is an item requested by Commissioner Hay, discussion on observing Juneteenth as a city holiday. And Commissioner Hay, I just want to thank you for bringing forward this item. Would you like to open?
Well, I'll just state a few statements here, and then the staff can share what they passed out here to us. Let me just say that this is in recognition of a national holiday, and there had not been a national holiday recognized in over 40 years before President Joe Biden signed this particular one to Juneteenth to be a national holiday in June of 2021. And since that time, you guys can talk more about that. But we have 39 municipalities in Palm Beach County, 38 of them, as I look at what you guys handed out, respondent, Brian Vrees being the one with nothing. I don't know why that is. You guys can answer that. But I was just giving a quick assessment of this, and out of the 38 that are listed here, 20 of them have already moved ahead with recognizing June 10th as a paid holiday. And if I were to think positive and look at the ones that say in discussion, there are 5 which will make over 66% of the cities in Palm Beach County have already moved on this in a short time. This only got signed in June of 2021. So I think, and I know that it would be a good thing to do for our citizen. I know there's been a cost analysis done. I think it was like 140-some thousand that it would cost us, but I think would be money well spent, given the fact that we don't, in my opinion, we don't do enough for our citizens. And I think this would be a good way to give back to where everybody benefits. And to recognize that as a national holiday, along with the other cities that already have done that, would be an opportunity for us, in my opinion, to do something great, something big here in the city of Boynton. There's a tendency to have a little cloud over Boynton because of this issue and that issue. Well, this would be an opportunity to show that we're still together. Okay, we may have differences of opinion. Okay, but there comes a time where we can work together and do something for all of our employees. And this would be a perfect opportunity. We're not stepping out of the box. Nobody else has done it. A lot of cities have already done it. A lot of cities are talking about it. And I think Boynton Beach should do it also, is to recognize this as a paid holiday for all of our employees and for all the citizens of Boynton Beach. With that, staff, I do have a question on what you passed out. What was the deal with Briny Breeze?
So this survey was put together. This is Catherine Matos, Assistant City Manager. Good evening. This was put together by the town of Gulfstream. I think it's the town of Gulfstream last week. They were actually doing research on it as well. And so they put a survey out to all the municipalities, and this is the response that they got. So if you have detailed questions like that, I don't know. They did collect information on both Columbus Day and Juneteenth, because I know Columbus Day has also been a holiday in question. But this is really just background information. Typically what we do when we're making decisions like this is we look at what other cities around us are doing. And so that was, staff's effort to provide you all with the information to make the decision.
Thank you, Catherine. Very good. How often do they update this? Do you know?
As far as I know, this is a one-time deal that they were just
Okay.
doing to find out the information for Juneteenth in particular and Columbus Day.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hay. Let's hear from my colleagues. Vice Mayor Cruz.
I think it's a great idea. I think that we definitely need to move in that direction. While we're at it, I do know we have a Juneteenth event. Is there any way that we can find out what the cost of that is? Because according to, we're talking about potentially lowering taxes for residents and making sure that we take strides in not increasing fees and trying to keep costs low for residents. So from that perspective, I'm looking at a potential total of over $148,000 for one day of a holiday, correct, for staff. And then additionally, we have the event. My concern is if we have the event on the exact day of Juneteenth, then what would happen? The staff that's currently working the event would no longer be working the event. And that might bring in a couple of issues from that perspective. So I just kind of wanted to educate myself on, first of all, the cost of the event itself, and then around how many staff members would normally be working that event.
So this past year, we spent $20,000 was the budget for the Juneteenth event. That event has historically been a partnership with the community as well. We did hold it at Town Square this year. It really depends on the magnitude of what's put together. We have had events that are held on work days previously, and
please.
We've had events that are held on work days, and we would just adjust the staffing. It wouldn't be something that would disrupt our other operations because obviously it's celebrated on June 19th. That day of the week changes every year. So we would just accommodate it. I don't see that as an issue. And I believe we have, I think it's 20,000 budgeted again in this year's budget, but I have to go back and look at it.
So if we had staff that would supposedly have to have the day off, they would be able to take a different day off, like the day after or so, and still be able to work on the holiday for the event.
I see what you're asking. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to know.
We would accommodate anybody that,
But what I don't want is for the event to not happen because we don't have the staff. That's basically the point that I'm trying to make.
Mr. Stables, I see you'd like to speak.
I'll interject. So we do a plan, and there's critical staff that holidays, that's why the costs $148,000, because there's people that can't take off. They work every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So for a plan like this, we have that in place, and it would be seamless. You wouldn't know the difference.
Okay.
So to answer your question.
Thank you. That's all I had.
All right, thank you. Anybody else from the dais?
Nope, I support this, Commissioner Hay. And if cost is a concern, we could just look at another holiday and just replace this holiday with that holiday. So, if we're looking at, fiscal perspective, there's a solution there.
If you'd like staff to research and come back with something for you, we can do that. Or if you have something in mind, please let us know
Yep.
and we'll pivot from that
Yep.
point. Or if you want to add it as an additional holiday, we're willing to look at it in any way, shape or form that you all prefer to. So whatever your direction is, we'll take it away and we'll come back with a recommendation of swapping this holiday for that or vice versa. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly.
Yeah, no, I'm actually surprised. I thank you for providing this, Catherine, because I was surprised that there's so many cities that are already ahead of the game on this. So I support this, Commissioner Hay, as well. But my question with the flop, though, I don't, and maybe then it will end up opening a can of worms with then researching other holidays that other municipalities don't consider a holiday. So I almost would rather not go down that rabbit hole and just leave it as it would be an additional holiday to our employees, just because of the fact of making it just so uber complicated. Do we get rid of President's Day? Do we get rid of Easter? Do you get rid of Christmas? What are you giving up? What are you then making our employee? I mean, the whole point is to give our employees that day off. So that's my position on that.
Commissioner Kelly and the other council members, that was my original intent, to be an additional holiday, not replacing one. So that was the intent. So I agree with you.
All right, so I heard two individuals who are in favor of adding this as an additional holiday, and I support you as well, Commissioner Hay. I think this is an excellent idea. I just want to make sure that I understood your position clearly, Commissioner Turkin.
Yeah, I support this.
You support this as is, adding as an additional
Yes.
holiday. All right, thank you so much. Any other final comments from my colleagues? City Manager, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
Vice Mayor Cruz.
as previously stated, I do support this as well. We just have to figure out where we would get the close to $150,000 for that one day from the budget. So that would be my question.
So hold on a second, City Manager, we've already moved forward with the budget plans. Would it be too much of a work to add this item in there? Or what would be your recommendation? I mean, we can always take multiple options. So what would be your recommendation?
My recommendation is we still have the ability to manage within the budget, but it means that something else will be not addressed. Can we take it from several areas? It's possible that we can. So, but that's a staff workup that, I don't want to do on the fly sitting here with you all right now.
Understood.
But my belief is that, it's not unachievable.
Okay.
Is what I'll tell you.
So what I would recommend is that we first ask staff to research that and see if that's possible.
Right.
And if it, for whatever reason, is just too tight, please provide us some other options on how to move forward. But from what I heard from my colleagues, the consensus is we want to add this as an additional holiday, if financially feasible, but that we need to hear from you first.
If you want to
after do
move
your
forward
homework.
with that tonight, we can move forward with that tonight. You can propose your motion and carry it forward, and then we can come back to you with
The plan.
here's how we do it. So we can certainly do that.
So we need to make a motion to that.
Let's make a motion. And Commissioner Hay, since this was your item, would you like to make that motion?
Sure, and hopefully get it right. My motion is to proceed with making, Juneteenth an additional holiday, and to, at this point, direct staff to look at how it can be done financially.
Second.
Did I get that right?
That sounds about right to me. We have a motion from Commissioner Hay. We have a second from Commissioner Turkin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those who oppose say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you. guys.
And I look forward to making this happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are now moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is 11E, discussion on a potential park in Leisureville requested by Vice Mayor Cruz. Vice Mayor, would you like to open this item?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I think we're going to go back and forth with the attorney now. And I might just ask you some questions. A little history regarding this parcel adjacent to Leisureville. It's approximately 3.62 acres. A review of some city records revealed that the city received this property as part of a settlement with Tradewinds back in 1990. Under the settlement agreement, the property was conveyed to the city to satisfy Tradewinds park dedication requirements. Right now, we're waiting for our legal department to follow up on information between what occurred between 1990 and 91 after the city received the title, because the settlement agreement contemplated having a park constructed either at Tradewinds expense or as a payment to the city. So that's something that we're going to be looking into with our legal department. Also, we need to look at the code back in 1990 to determine if there are any limits to the code and the usage of that property for a park. As I know, during the campaign, I heard a lot about, that the residents of Leisureville and adjacent communities were promised a passive green space decades ago. And it seems like nothing has really happened for that purpose in actually ever. So I want to make sure that I want to make that difference for my constituents and that we move forward with addressing those concerns. Specifically, I know there are concerns with nearby homes. So right now I just want to work with legal and also with the nearby communities, including Leisureville and other communities nearby that lot, to figure out what the best way to move forward is. And my question to legal would be, what are some legal avenues we can use to protect that land, specifically to protect it from being sold to developers in the future, to make sure that we maintain it as a city-owned green space for the remainder of, like, always in perpetuity. That would be my goal here, and I want to see how we can make that happen with our legal department.
Madam Vice Mayor, one of the options and the most direct option would be for City Commission to agree to attach to the property a restrictive covenant to limit its use to, say, passive park use, which could be released only by, say, unanimous vote of the commission. Since we've been putting it on it, we want to make it difficult, I guess, if that was the intent, to take it off. So
Yes.
Unanimous vote requiring that. And if that was the desire of the commission, we could provide a form document for you all to approve and authorize to be recorded on that parcel that would limit its use to passive park purposes, or whatever the languages the commission would agree on. It would be recorded, and it could only be rescinded by unanimous vote of the commission. You would expect that you wouldn't get that unanimous support unless there was community support, et cetera, whatever. But that is a straightforward way of putting something on that property. Commission could do that, and then that would preserve it. Because right now, there's a special warranty deed on it. The special warranty deed doesn't have any restrictions. For whatever reason, when this was done in 1990, there was a decision not to put anything in the special warranty deed. That was discussed at the commission meeting back in 1990 when this was brought up. So you can do that now on your own, and then again put that condition on rescinding it.
Thank you. And, this is going to be a lengthy process. It's not something we're going to decide from one day to another. I do want to have town hall meetings at Leisureville and other adjacent communities to see what the residents, more details about the potential park. But what I would like my colleagues to support me now and the residents of Boynton Beach would be if we can agree to create a deed covenant, attorney. Is that
A restrictive covenant.
a restrictive covenant? For that specific area. And again, the purpose is to prevent any developers from potentially purchasing that land. We're not making a final decision on the layout of the park or the details of the park. We're simply making a decision to protect the residents of the nearby communities, to make sure that we don't have a developer come in and purchase that lot. And I think that this would be the right move for our residents. And I would like to see what my colleagues are thinking about this.
Vice Mayor Cruz, let me be the first to say that I fully support you. I have spoken to the residents of Leisureville and their leadership in their HOA and their association, and I know where they stand. and that is to protect this area as some sort of green space. What that turns into exactly, whether it's private or public, that's to be determined down the road. But generally speaking, that appears to be what they want. So I will fully support you in this endeavor. Let's hear from the others. Commissioner Hay? Microphone.
Microphone is off. Okay. I do support you 110% on that. I have people that I know out there, and that's always been a discussion point. So I'm happy that you brought it up, and I do support you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Turkett and Commissioner Kelly.
I support you. I mean, everyone knows how I feel about over and rapid development. So whatever we can do to mitigate that, I'm on board.
Excellent. Commissioner Kelly?
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues. I think that this, to preserve that green space, whatever green space we have left, we need to protect that. And so I agree with that and support you on that.
Excellent. You have unanimous support, Vice Mayor Cruz.
Yay.
So I'm
Okay.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to thank my colleagues because I know we've had, I know the residents of Leisureville have been promised this for decades and even longer, and nothing has really happened before that. So thanks to all of you, we're going to make that happen. Do you mind if I make a motion?
No, by all means. And 1 second, do you just need consensus or you need a motion
Well,
now?
I was gonna ask a couple of things. You know, once we put in the restriction, we want to make sure we define it properly. And you had indicated you wanted to speak with folks and get an idea of what they wanted to use with. So maybe after you have that feedback, we can make sure that we phrase it properly. Because I wouldn't want to say, for example, passive park, and then you'd have to go back and by unanimous vote change it again. So it's up to you, but we can.
Yep. Okay. I have spoken to many people in that community for quite a while now, and I think that my goal here is to prevent a developer from purchasing that land from the city. I know oftentimes that's always a possibility to sell the land. So the first thing I want to protect is the ability for the city to sell that to anyone really. And I want to keep it as city property in perpetuity. So that would be the first goal, keeping it as city property in perpetuity. So the city of Boynton Beach has control over that land. And then according to the documents you sent me earlier this week, it was understood that there was a settlement agreement, which contemplated a potential park. So I would like to direct, if my colleagues agree with this, I would like to direct the law firm to do more digging into that. I know it was 1990, over 30 years ago. But if it was a trade winds part of that settlement agreement to either have them build a park or pay for it in some sort, I just want to do research on that avenue and see how that would work.
Okay.
City Attorney, would the motion for this item be to direct you to bring back these items?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Allow me some time to bring back those items in a proposed restrictive covenant. The restrictive covenant may not on its face prevent the sale, but if it was restricted to public park and public green space, it would, nobody would want to purchase that, and the city would probably not be willing to sell it with those restrictions on it.
Yes, correct. So to be more specific, I would like to direct the attorneys to create a deed covenant for that parcel adjacent to Leisureville to make sure that it is specifically used for a public park. And then the details of the park will come later, but I want to maintain it as city property, as a city park in perpetuity.
Okay. Yep. I understood what that
Restrictive
meant.
covenant?
Yeah, I understood
Restrictive
what,
covenant.
I understood what you meant.
Excellent. So we have that motion. Is there a second? Commissioner Kelly? I'll beat you to it, Commissioner Head. We have a motion and a second to direct legal to bring back the restrictive covenant. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Vice Mayor Cruz and to Leisureville. This
Thank
is
you all so much.
the first step, and it's in the right direction. Thank you. Now, we did add one additional item under new business this evening, and that is a discussion about possibly hiring outside legal counsel pertaining to arbitrations. And I've asked our chief here, Police Chief Joe DiGiulio, to introduce that item. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners, Vice Mayor, Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to speak about this tonight. I'm a big proponent of this, and I'm just, being that it's late, I'll get straight to the point. I wholeheartedly recommend that we go to seek outside counsel in the handling of the arbitration related to our former officer, Mark Sohn. One of the reasons why, I believe, obviously, we all know the importance of the case. So I don't need to really underscore that any further. There's a lot to go into these cases from an investigative standpoint. It's a lot of resources, labor intensive. So to not prevail in arbitration would not only be disheartening, but also, the biggest concern is that we would erode the confidence the community has in the police department. And we can't afford that. So the recommendation is to seek a law firm that specializes in this, that has the experience and expertise as it relates to law enforcement arbitrations. There are unique challenges. We also are looking for, a law firm that has a successful track record. And because of that, we've obviously, talked to our law enforcement partners within the county and surrounding counties. And, we've received a few recommendations. And, from our own experiences, we recommend the law firm of Kopowitz, Austow, Ferguson, Weisselberg, and Gilbert. And one of the reasons why is that this is what they do on a regular basis. The last time the city had an arbitration related to the police department was in 2018, 4 years ago. So there's just not a lot of reps there. So we're looking at a law firm that has the volume, has the track record, and that prevails. I'm going to let my assistant chief, Jack Dale, speak a little bit more on this, as he has a tremendous amount of experience related to these cases and actually has a little bit of experience of working with the law firm.
How you doing? Jack Dale, Assistant Chief of Operations. In my prior law enforcement organization, I was in charge of all disciplinary matters for all employees. There's roughly 5,600 employees in the organization. So there was a large number of disciplinary matters that would come forward. And when I first got there, I was charged with revamping the disciplinary process because our win ratio wasn't very good. It was at about 20%. And through process improvements and the bringing of outside counsel, we had a complete legal staff, but we just needed somebody with the specialty of labor law. And we brought in outside counsel, and tonight I'll introduce in a second, David Ferguson and Seth Hamovich. They proceeded to take these cases, and I don't ever remember losing a case moving forward. Our record in disciplinary arbitration after that was up over 80%, and I give a large amount of the credit for the preparation and the focus that this group has, and the amount of time they dedicated to it. And we're specifically dedicated to that case and arguing it on our behalf. So I'd like to bring forth Mr. Ferguson.
Good evening. My name is David Ferguson. I'm one of the shareholders of Kopowitz, Ostro, Weisselberg. I'm sorry, Ferguson, Weisselberg, and Keachel. It's a mouthful. We go by KO. I consider it a great honor to have this recommendation. It's obvious how important this case is and how sensitive it is to the city, to the agency, and the citizens. And I would consider it a great privilege if it was entrusted to me and my law partner, Seth Hamovich. I've been practicing in South Florida for 30 years. I started at a large law firm in Miami, Steele, Hector, and Davis. And about 4 or 5 years in, moved to the West Palm office. And there I practiced almost exclusively in employment law related matters for Fortune 50 companies, Pratt & Whitney, Home Depot, Office Depot, and Florida Crystals, the Von Hool's operations. I did employment work for them too. I joined my firm now in 2005 and am the head of the litigation department. I've handled many arbitrations. I go to trial. My partner Seth and I think in the last 5 years have tried more cases probably than anyone we know, probably all the lawyers in my firm combined. In 2013, I had the honor of being hired by BSO to handle employment matters. I handled arbitrations, 1983 actions, I got to work with Colonel Dale, and we really put a hard focus on these cases. I take them very personally, put my heart and soul into them. I hate losing. I don't want to lose this case, and I would consider it a privilege to represent the agency and making sure that the discipline that was meted out sticks. If you have any questions, you can let me know. We have active right now probably 5 or 6 arbitrations. I was assigned, I've had over 200 matters for BSO. I would say we've had north of 30 arbitrations. We've actually taken, I think, 15 to full hearing. And we didn't lose a single one. We had one where a deputy had pulled his gun out at Blue Martini in Town Center because he perceived someone was harassing his wife who worked there. And long story short, the arbitrator found that he lied about it. He did do it, but did the old split the baby, brought him back after 2 years, but with no back pay. That's the only one that got around, that I consider it a loss, but he got in trouble later with some drugs. We had him again, and he's no longer with the agency. But we've had a very good track record, and I've already reviewed this file and would be fully prepared for us to give it our all. And I also, just to let you know, BSO has also entrusted in us, Seth and I alone, we handle every single piece of civil litigation involving the MSD tragedy, the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. So there's upwards of 70 plaintiffs in there, and we handle all of those cases. We don't handle any claims against Deputy Peterson individually, but we defend the agency in all of those actions as well.
Thank you. Let me begin by saying I want to commend Chief DiGiulio and Assistant Chief Dale for making this recommendation. This is an essential second step to rebuilding that community trust, and this increases our odds. So thank you again, and for the courage of making this recommendation. Let's now hear from my colleagues before we move any forward. Who would like to begin? Questions or comments, Commissioner Turkin?
No, thanks, Chief DiGiulio. I think public safety is extremely important. I think public trust is just as important. And so I think going outside is important. It sounds like you guys are professionals with this, and this is extremely important to this community. So I would support this.
And it sounds like we're bringing in the best of the best. That is important.
I like to think that.
And your track record shows
and my
it.
track record, yeah, I'm proud of it. And if I didn't have a good track record, I move on to something else. I don't like losing.
And
Commissioner, hey, go ahead.
And obviously you wouldn't take on a case that you didn't think you could win.
Well, I would advise, if I recognize certain victory or probable victory, I wouldn't not take the case on, but I would advise that perhaps a settlement would be negotiated. And if it was an unsettleable case, I would still go in and go down swinging. But we've had some difficult cases. I had one assigned to me that I did think we would win, but I took it and we worked it up. It was a deputy who unfortunately fell asleep while he was guarding the 1200 building at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas right after the shooting. And he fell asleep in his patrol car. And it was a difficult one because he was a very sympathetic man and had an excuse that he was up because his child was sick and he was sick, but he didn't tell his supervisors that he was sick the day he reported to work, and that was his obligation. He's the only one who knew what his situation was. And when we had the arbitration, pretty much everybody said the arbitrator's going to bring him back. You'll win if you get no back pay. But my theme in that case was, listen, falling asleep, anyone could do it, but it's context. And in that case, the context of that case, it was just too much. And then in the arbitration, he tried to say that he had a medical event or something, which just wasn't candid. He wasn't being candid. But so my answer is, I wouldn't refuse a case, but I would have given a much different message to the administration of the agency if I thought it was a loser, and I don't.
Part of my rationale for bringing that up, Mr. Ferguson, is that Attorney Ferguson, that this is a troublesome and very touchy case here.
Absolutely.
And all eyes going to be on this one to take a look at the results.
I understand.
And the track record has not always been great with these types of cases. So that's my concern. But I know that I have a feeling, I don't know you, I've never met you, but I do, and I don't have a crystal ball up here, but I do feel that you would represent us well in this case.
I will give you the best that I've got, and we'll.
And that's all we can ask.
Yes, sir.
So based on that, I would support this. I would support it.
Thank you, Commissioner Hay. Vice Mayor Cruz?
Yeah, I have to agree with my colleagues. You know, public trust is very important, and this is a case that is just as important. And so I would like to support this as well.
Thank you.
Any other comments from my colleagues?
No, I agree with my colleagues that I think that this is a the best move that that the city can make and the police department can make to heal. I think that's what we need to do. So thank you.
Excellent. So at this time, I'd like to, first of all, let me ask the city attorney, is the motion to retain Mr. David Ferguson? And if only I could repeat the name of him.
KO. KO will do.
Mr.
KO
David
law firm.
Ferguson of KO
KO.
to handle matters pertaining to arbitration. How should I properly word this motion? I want to make sure we get it
You
right.
just did. You
That was it.
authorized the retention of Mr. Ferguson and his law firm to represent the city in this arbitration. Allow him to start immediately working on the file and appearing on behalf of the city, as there are things working imminently, I believe, as soon as next week, while we work on a retainer agreement with the same authority you gave before to have our office or the city manager sign that retainer agreement. So this is one where things are coming up right away. And so I'd like to have some
And
clear
if I
authority.
may,
Yeah.
if I may, just to let you know, on civil matters, my billable rate is $550 an hour, but I am going to offer the city the same rate that I give to BSO, which is $225 an hour.
So I would vote on that immediately.
Bless your pea-picking heart.
All right, may I have,
So moved.
So moved.
Let's make
may I
sure
have
that.
that motion? We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I don't know, too quickly. So we have a second. City Clerk, did you get that second? Okay. Any final comments before we call that vote? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you to both of you and to our chiefs here.
Wow.
I was going
Pray
to
that
say,
in the end I can.
Mr. Ferguson, send me your retainers as soon as you can, but whatever you need to do, but get going. Okay, thank you.
We are now moving on to the last item of this evening, which is discussion and direction on tenant notice and bill of rights ordinance. City Attorney, would you like to open this item?
Microphone off. So at the July meeting, July 19th meeting, the mayor requests the commission consider an ordinance that would put into place additional protections for renters in the city. And we did some research, and a lot of jurisdictions are, at the time, Palm Beach County hadn't stepped in, but some cities like Lake Worth Beach and down in Broward County and across the state had put in ordinances that would allow or that would require additional notice requirements for terminating leases or increasing rents and those kind of things. And that's the basic ordinance that a lot of them are adopting, and some have gone beyond that and said we also want to provide more information and notice about late fees and information and delivery of that information to tenants. And also in Broward County, they require that for lack of a better term, a tenant's bill of rights be prepared and endorsed by the city that provides information on what those requirements are in these ordinances and what their rights are as tenants and resources should they need assistance with a dispute with the landlord. That form would be approved by you and be required in the city to be distributed by landlords along with new leases. So while we were looking at all these things, we learned that Palm Beach County has gone forward to move forward with an ordinance that would apply countywide, which would include the city of Boynton Beach, that would provide requirements for notice for a termination and increase in rent. So the options for the city commission would be, if that's sufficient, the city can use the county ordinance. If the city commission wants to do something more, we can bring back an ordinance that contains those other items that I mentioned, the late fee and the tenant bill of rights information. And lastly, you can do your own ordinance, notwithstanding what Palm Beach County did, and cover it all ourselves, which would, again, require us to do the enforcement and everything else, as opposed to having the county contacted us. Under the county's ordinance, we're still doing the enforcement, we're still authorized to do it, but we are doing it under their program and whatnot. So it's really here for your discussion on how you would like to move forward. In the backup, we provided you with the draft ordinance, and again, that was prepared as not to encompass everything. You know, we didn't adjust anything after we heard about what the county is doing. But that's not the final product. Obviously, it was going to be a draft anyway for you all. So depending on how you want to provide some direction this evening, we can recalibrate, or we can move forward with the proposed ordinance as it is. Or if you prefer us to do nothing, we'll do nothing. But those are your choices, I think, tonight as we sit here, if you would like to move forward.
Thank you, City Attorney. Now, this is an item that I requested, and so what I'd like to request from my colleagues is that we move forward with this item as is. And my reasoning is fairly straightforward. Number one, we lead the city, not the county. I don't want to depend on what the county may or may not do. That's number one. Number two, what we have proposed here goes above and beyond what the county is proposing. It is not identical. So this adds even greater protection and value for residents than what the county can bring, which they may or may not do. So I would recommend that we move forward as it's already presented. Again, this includes additional protections. This includes the tenant's bill of rights, and that's where I stand. So can we hear from my colleagues who would like to begin? Commissioner Kelly, let's just go around the table.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mayor. I think one of the key things that is different from what we were talking about and what the county was the days. I think we had all kind of agreed that 90 days was, what we thought was appropriate for residents, to give them as much opportunity as possible, or tenants as much opportunity as possible to, to plan for being, for their leases being terminated or their rent being raised. So I agree with you that we had a plan in place, and we should move forward with our plan, because I think it's a little bit different and a little bit stronger than what the county is proposing. So I agree with you on that.
Thank you, Commissioner. And just for clarity purposes, I just want to say that this is not the final decision. This is just to give direction to the attorney to bring back to us.
Go vote on the ordinance.
Yeah, so we don't actually have the ordinance today.
Right. It was only provided as a draft, so you could see the thought process.
Excellent.
Look like.
Commissioner Turkin, did you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, looking at the draft, it says 60 days, not 90 days.
Yeah, there's a statute talks about 60 days if you have a set tenancy, like a year term or something like that. What we would do is provide the duration if someone doesn't have a fixed duration. And so it's 60 days right now. That's what's common and whatever. And it was just there again for your discussion. It provides this, it puts people without a set tenancy on the same level as people with set tenancies, but not on a greater level. And then the other ones, notice of termination and whatnot, it was all meant to be uniform 60. We can provide 90-day if that's what we can't do is change what's in the statute for the 60 days for folks that have the the durance, the fixed or, basically help folks that maybe on verbal leases or month to months and things like that is what it would be intended to do. Fix the gap that's not in the statute.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
Anything else? Vice Mayor Cruz?
Yep, I wholeheartedly support this. I think we need to provide even further than what the county's doing and, as a city ourselves. I do have a question for staff, and my question is implementation. How are we going to enforce this? Are we going to have to hire someone else to? I know we already have people busy doing their job, so what do we need to do to make sure that we can support the residents? That's basically my question.
At this point, I don't know that we've had a lot of conversations as far as what impacts it was because we didn't know all the details. As we start to flush out this through the ordinance, we'll make sure that we have that as a part of the backup when the ordinance comes before you for first reading.
Can you bring that information back?
Yes,
next
we can
meeting?
send it to you individually beforehand, or we'll bring it back with the ordinance on the first reading.
We'll work together with the city attorney's office to kind of, but as it looks, we'll have a good process in place that'll make reporting smooth and easy and follow through of the check and balance system easy. So.
And there's going to be an implementation and a learning curve and things like
Right,
that. So
of
that
course.
is going to take some resources as well
Right.
up front.
All right, thank you, Vice Mayor. Did you have any other comments? All right, Commissioner Hay.
No, I agree with what's been said, so I won't repeat it. I just support this wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I believe we have clear consensus to give to our city attorney.
I can move forward with that.
All right, thank you. I believe this concludes this evening's meeting. Are there any final comments from my colleagues before we motion to adjourn?
Nope. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, city staff, working hard. And I'm excited to see, what the end of the year looks like.
Yeah, I actually have to second that. Lately, in the past few weeks, I've been bugging staff a lot. Like, I've been a pain. And I've been asking for extra things to help with residents and that sort of thing. So I just want to thank all of you for your hard work, and we definitely appreciate you.
We have the best staff in the world.
Yes.
All right, thank you, everybody. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Have a great night, everybody.
Who's going to win?